If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it
own
up.
money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned
Foot, mouth.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Okay, it's a Monday morning. What do you expect? It's going to be a very busy one. So, there's already some construction going on and some new diversion on Mombasa Road at South Sea near this shopping mall. So, it's all not looking so good. So, everybody who's coming from down Mombasa Road heading towards town, that's going to be moving well, but then you'll get some restriction. How is it looking like right now from the southern bypass, that South B area? It's not looking so good at all. And near Kapiti Road, getting all the way to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, very, very, very busy. But the other roads are looking okay so far. Thika Road is not looking so bad, but then, of course, you expect the Utalii area to Pangani, it's not looking so good right now. But let's look at how the roads will be looking like in about half an hour. And we will update you about it. A very good morning to you.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
It's 9 minutes after 6. A very good morning to you, and how are you doing? Welcome to November. It's the first day of the week. It's the first day of the month. It's the 11th month of the year. Eric Latiff and C.T. Muga in the studio with you. Ndu Okoh is away today. Hopefully she'll be back tomorrow. C.T., how are you?
Very well, thank you.
How was your weekend, my brother?
Quiet.
As usual?
As usual.
What did you watch the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon?
No, I did not.
What were you watching? What were you reading?
I was trying to catch up on my understanding of African history. And I got caught up in it. And everything else now simply receded to the background. Yes.
So what new stuff did you look at?
It isn't so much new, but it's just a reminder of how it is we got here. When I say how we got here is some people sit down and think of the present, which is their present, and they make decisions as to how it will benefit them in the immediacy. And then the consequences of those decisions have huge ramifications into the future, something that they themselves could never even have foreseen.
For example?
Wildlife. It was fair game to shoot down as many elephants as you wanted. Shoot down any game for the tasks. It didn't occur to them that when many people got into that particular gig, you could actually get to a point where you would render elephants extinct. But you see, what struck me was these European countries had done something similar in their own countries.
Yes.
They also had animals, but they had extinguished them. The only thing that was our saving grace was our weather, climate. Chief of our protectors was the mosquito, a huge protector. And with the mosquito, then the forest, because that's where the mosquito dwelt. It provided us with shelter like we've never known. And yet now that same forest and whatever lay within it now was a second level of attraction, and that has led to unending turmoil on the continent. It never ends. If this continent was cursed with no natural resources, we'd be at peace.
Our problem is what we have.
What people want. We have it, we've always had it. It's people who want it. Yes.
And also just not being able to manage what we have and what people want.
Oh no, you know that one now is a second level of understanding. And what I was reading was how it is, the thinking behind those who want to influence those in leadership and how it works. Again, the moment there is an entire culture that pervades our lives and is a culture of accumulation, you suddenly find that nothing else matters. Everything else is hindsight. Now, what struck me, it's an era where the only thing you thought of and was our biggest problem and concern was disease. We've mastered the process of handling and managing diseases, but we have bigger problems. Much, much bigger. It's called climate change.
So they say.
Remember we had this discussion the other day. And why it's a big problem? It's not because it's a big problem for us. No. It's a big problem for everybody else around us. And so even the problems that we've had in the past suddenly can be explained by climate change. It's the byword for explaining everything.
It also becomes now, like the easiest excuse to everything.
Yes, it is. It is. I remember the debate which we had with Ms. Muthui the other day. And the discussion was, okay, these cycles that we now speak of have happened before. When there was no decimation of forests, there was no greenhouse gases. So how do you explain it?
Yeah.
We had the Ice Age. This issue of water rising, we've had it before. Yes. The issue of excessive heat, we've had it before. The only fundamental difference from what I read was that the cycles are becoming shorter, meaning the period between one cycle and the other are getting to be shorter.
We are catalyzing it.
Yes, exactly.
So human activity is acting as a catalyst.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Keep it here for conversations that we'll have today, many conversations, but let's begin with tracking the numbers in COVID-19. According to the Ministry of Health, as of the 30th of October 2021, 5.3 million vaccines have been administered across the country. Of these, 3.6 were partially vaccinated, and those fully vaccinated, 1.6 million people fully vaccinated so far. So we still have a couple of vaccines available. And then, in terms of looking at the numbers, 17 people tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday from a sample size of 3,000. The positivity rate is now at 0.6%. Can you imagine this positivity rate? At one point, it's at 24%. And then at another point, it comes down to 0.6%. Total confirmed positive cases in the country, 253,000, with a cumulative test so far conducted at 2.7 million. Globally, what's happening? The numbers have continued to rise, 247,460,000, with 224 of those having recovered, 224 million of those having recovered. 5 million people have died from COVID-19 around the world so far. So yes, it is still there with us. It's still here with us. It's still spreading. Just because the positivity rate in the country has dropped to 0.6%, I mean, that's pretty low, man.
It is low. It is low.
Very.
But I think...
warmer weather coming out of the cold weather, maybe, perhaps?
The truth of the matter is, Eric, anything that has to do with COVID, it doesn't matter what we say, we're still in uncharted waters. What we know now.
Yeah.
It isn't conclusive, neither is it definitive. It's just the truth of the time as we speak it. Yeah. There's so much more we still don't know or understand. Because every time something happens, we're figuring out, so where does this fit in? And we're not even certain where it fits in. But we celebrate the fact that the positivity rate is low.
It is, indeed. That's a very, very good figure to look at. Still, as you hear, 0.6%, those are human beings. Those are human beings who have contracted COVID-19. There are families that are dealing with people who have COVID-19. Some are in hospitals. Some are recuperating at home. But these are human beings, so make sure that you at least keep that in your mind. It is 16 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Are you online? Say hello. Let's see who's online. Happy new month of November. A very good morning to you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing. As much as we call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay.
The weather.
Presently, it's cloudy in Nairobi at 17 degrees, but the temperature is going to rise to 26 later in the day and lows of 16. Mombasa, it's mostly clear day today at 31 and then lows of 25. Let's look at other parts of the country. Western Kenya, areas of Kakamega, 13 degrees presently, and then it's going to rise to 24, lows of 13. Other parts of the country, Western Kenya as well, 18 degrees in Lurambi, 30 degrees, highs and lows of 14. Okay, Malindi, 26, partly cloudy. It's going to rise to 31 and lows of 26. Nyeri, currently at 14, rising to 26 and lows of 13. Nakuru, 15 degrees presently, at 27 is a high and lows of 15. Cloudy days everywhere I'm talking about. All right, around Africa, Kampala, Uganda, light rains at 29. In Dar es Salaam, light rains at 30. In Kinshasa, light rains at 32. Where else? Let's look at in the region outside Africa. Johannesburg, South Africa, 15 degrees and light rains at 28 later. And then in China, very, very sunny day at 14. London, UK, clear skies at 14. And New York, partly cloudy at 17. Paris, France, mostly cloudy day at 13 as well.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You're awake. A very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in. Abdikadir Abdallah, good morning here at Komarok, locked as usual until the end. Welcome, Abdikadir. Happy New Month. Michael from Zambia, an ardent follower of Spice FM, says, very good morning to you, Michael Tembo. Rogers Lai, Shikamo CT and crew 001 tuned in. Good morning to you, Jacqueline Otieno. Greetings to CT. Good morning, Spice FM. Jacqueline says good morning to you.
Good morning, Jacqueline.
Anthony Freeman, check your frequency here in Nyamira. We're in darkness. Okay. That is something we'll pick up. Thank you very much for raising that with us, Anthony Freeman. Paul Ntaia tuned in from Narok East. Sky Tarish, happy new month. Yeah, wherever you're tuned in, Sky, good morning to you. Evelyn Kavaya, happy new month from Riyadh, tuned in from Saudi Arabia. In Mombasa is tuned in with Robert Bogo. Charity Miner from Nakuru, Milimani Estate, tuned in. Beri Asli, well, Beri Macha, well tuned in. Adala as well, happy new month. Very good morning to you, Adala, wherever you're tuned in. everybody who is online. We're glad that you're online, and happy new month to all of you. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. CT has the day's proverb.
Yes, and today we travel to the coast. We travel to Taita. Okay. And for the next 3 days, we will be looking at proverbs from that particular region.
Okay.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Yes. Have you climbed the roof with your sandals on?
So it's a question.
It's a very prudent question proverb.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Yes.
Have you climbed the roof with your sandals on?
Yes. So someone does something and you're told, have you climbed the roof with your sandals on?
Meaning what?
Have you made a mistake?
Have you done something you shouldn't do?
Yes, because the consequences are dire and you should know that.
What's wrong with climbing the roof with your shoes on?
Sandals, not shoes. Sandals don't give you a very good foothold. And the roof is not an even walking field. It's slanting, it's sloping.
So we are imagining here this is a thatched roof.
Yes. And you're balancing the sandals, because to walk with the sandal on a flat surface is simple enough. But to climb with it, you introduce, should we say, new variables into that equation that may not necessarily help your progress. Yes.
Okay.
So one could argue you're even better off removing them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stay without. All right. Wakwea guni na viratu. Taita proverb. Okay, let's look at the newspaper headlines. The Standard e-paper is available to you wherever you are. Anywhere in the world, you get premium content for only 20 shillings daily. Premium content on standardmedia.co.ke, and also you get daily Sudoku free, daily crossword puzzle free, and 10 days of free access to the Standard archives. This is available, Standard e-paper. As we look at the papers, so what's happening in Glasgow? Started yesterday, it's going to go on this week. Climate change talks. Climate talks.
You know, climate talks, it's going to be vigorous. It's going to be vigorous because, you see, the players who feature in those talks are some of the greatest emitters of greenhouse gases.
Yes.
And from what I was listening to on the BBC and listening to people who are commenting on it, more so youthful activists, people who are young, who say, you know, we are the ones who are going to have to live through the decisions and the misdeeds of this current leadership, because we are the ones who are going to be adults then. So it behoves us to actually take a very, very firm stand on these matters. But what is significant is this. It's a conversation that those who are interested in climate change know about, but again, the rest of the world may not even know what. You're saying Glasgow, you're saying COP, you're saying, okay, Glasgow, we understand. COP, what?
Yeah.
It's not something that people outside the realms of those who are particularly involved in such issues understand or know about. Not really.
It's going to be big conversations throughout the week, so it's been given some coverage in the papers today. Page 27 of the Standard, make or break as world makes new bid to avert climate disaster. World leaders started descending on the Scottish city of Glasgow yesterday for the United Nations COP26 summit, billed as a make or break chance to save the planet from the most calamitous effects of climate change. Delayed by a year because of the COVID-19, COP26 aims to keep alive a target of capping global warming at 1.5 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial levels. That's the limit scientists say would avoid its most destructive consequences. Meeting that goal, agreed on Paris, so to match fanfare in 2015, will require a surge in political momentum and diplomatic heavy lifting to make up for the insufficient action and empty pledges that have characterized much of global climate politics. So it's all just been, talk. Now, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, let's be clear, there's a serious risk that Glasgow will not deliver, even if recent pledges were clear and credible. And there are serious questions about some of them. We are still careening towards climate catastrophe. So people are meeting, people are talking, and all those things, but, well, it's just all talk, not much action. Another story here talks about the G20 leaders facing tough climate talks. Scientists and activists are likely to be disappointed unless late breakthroughs are made, with drafts of the G20's final communique showing little progress in terms of new commitments to curb pollution. So the big emitters, the big contributors, are only just talking.
But they only just, that's what they do, really. Remember, when we had this conversation last week, I did raise the question and say, yes, if you look at the sphere within which they conduct their manufacturing and you focus on that, if it's in country, where they should reduce emissions, what they do is they simply move the manufacturing elsewhere. So if you're looking at the emissions in that particular, you'll find, yes, it has gone down, but they've gone, essentially, they have shifted it elsewhere.
Yep.
Yes.
But if you're a big country, I mean, what would you do?
If I was a big country, the discussion...
So whose interests are the leaders looking after?
Big commerce, big industry.
So, and then the big industry is all unanimous that we don't
big
care
industry
about
don't
climate
really
change.
see why they should change, because change involves spending money. And these are business people who are in the business of making money. The way business thinks is, why do they fix something which isn't necessarily terrible at that particular point in time? Look, we talk about Kenya being at the forefront of using renewable energy, okay? Other countries could do the same thing. We don't have a monopoly on renewable energy on this planet.
In fact, we don't even have big rivers.
No, we don't.
The countries that have
far
bigger
huger rivers, yes, and other resources. It's a question of the decision that they want to make. They've been making money from coal. They have huge deposits. They don't see why they should change. I don't think there's anything more complicated than that. They just don't see why they should. You can talk about the carbon emission all you like. If, for instance, remember the talk we had about agri-talk, and we're talking about synthetic fertilizers. They've been banned in the West where they are produced, but they haven't been banned here. The harm that they cause is known. And you still find them selling. They know these things cause harm, and they still sell it. So once you understand that thinking, then understanding climate change, global warming, greenhouse gases, is very easy to understand.
So then what's the point of having these talks?
To give the impression, it's a human thing. You want to give the impression that you're actually doing something and you'll contribute to something or the other. Let me ask you something, Eric. How many decades has it taken for us to get to the point where we're now talking electric cars? How many decades has it taken for us to understand the use of solar power, the use of wind power? The sun has been there all this time. It didn't suddenly reappear 10 years ago. The wind has always been there. Why? Part of the reason is because, remember, when solar power became clearly a technology that was recognized, those in that line of business, essentially petrochemical product, realized this is a challenge. You know what they did? They bought up many of those patents and sat on them. So solar power and the technology around it could not move. And it couldn't move for a very long time. Do you really think something as readily and easily available as the sun, if those who are in that industry intended to harness it for the good instead of looking for profit, do you really think we wouldn't be running most of our things on solar right now?
We would.
Yes. So you experiment with it, you give the impression you're doing something, but no, you want to burn these.
So it's all about commerce.
Yes, it is.
And then now also then goes to say that commerce is what runs governments.
It is.
Because somebody who is elected by a vast majority of their population comes into office and they only listen to certain interests.
Yes.
And others not.
Yes.
It clearly tells you then who's paying the piper.
Exactly. And you're talking about the interest around fossil fuels. Man, it's huge. So let those who have gone for the conference have the conference. Let people get together and agree on what they're going to do. And then after how many years did they meet again?
5.
All right. After 5 years again, they'll meet and reconsider what it is that they agreed on and what has happened, what hasn't happened. And the beat goes on.
Let's take a break on that note. It's 6:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room with you in the room this morning is Eric and CT. Ndu is away. So let's look at the traffic. There's some issues that are taking place on this construction of the expressway. We'll tell you just about it shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Higher. So the contractor of the Nairobi Expressway has created a new diversion on top of the old diversion at the area around Capital Centre, either going into town or coming out of town. So going into town, you'll meet with oncoming traffic that is going towards the airport, because the airport traffic has also now been diverted and brought into like a half a lane.
It is half a lane.
Yeah?
Yes.
Half a lane of the traffic going towards town.
Yes.
So you'll all meet there and there's a clear confusion. Now, looking at the map, it's red and what's this? Crimson red.
And growing
all the way from the Eka Hotel, heading towards South Sea, past Kapiti Road. It's crazy. So just be patient there. This is what's happening. There's a new diversion that's been created and it's a bad road. Now, everybody else who's heading towards town from Thika Road, you understand what's happening on your road? Yes, I'll tell you. At the Muthui junction with Kiambu Road, it's all backed up. That goes all the way back to Italy, all the way up to Madara Area 4, coming towards town, and to Pangani. After that, it's clear. Those are the main areas that I need to tell you about right now. Let's see what else is happening in about half an hour, because it's going to be a chaotic Monday morning. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So what are you looking at?
My friend, I'm looking at very many things.
Yeah.
But the thing that has caught my attention is something which is actually particularly interesting. It's in the Business Daily. The out-of-court deals unlock 31 billion in taxes. It's actually, the whole story is on page 5. Yeah? This is what it says. Yeah? Treasury wrote off 37.6 billion debts by struggling parastatals in the year ended June 2021, exposing the deteriorating financial health of state-controlled firms tasked with strategic roles in economic development. The on-lent loans, which were written off to keep the state-backed firms afloat, were part of the slightly more than 74.01 billion that were in arrears in the review period, comprising 38 billion in principal and 35 billion in interest. Okay. Goodness gracious me. Treasury usually borrows cash from foreign and domestic lenders for on-lending to state-owned enterprises that play a strategic role in the economy, but cannot get funding on their own because of their weak financial positions. As a prerequisite, Treasury should ensure that projects funded through call and credit hold top-level priority in the development of the agenda of the government.
So the Treasury usually borrow on behalf of a state corporation. So the money then basically just goes to a state corporation.
It
And
does.
those are playing strategic roles.
Yes.
Then those state corporations are not able even to raise the money that can repay these
they're not.
loans.
Mhm.
So the Treasury is forced to pay the loan.
Yes.
Okay, and that is what is called writing off.
Mhm.
Writing off is basically just saying that it's been paid by your father.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to read for you the
Some of those
outstanding loans?
Yes, some of those state corporations. It would be interesting to know
All
that.
right. Receipts on-lend loans ending June 2021. Okay?
Yep.
Organization, KenGen, 7.7 billion. KCAA, 266 million. There are some financial organizations here, and I'm not sure how they fit in, but let me just read them anyway. Kenya Women Finance Trust, 44.7 million. Agricultural Finance Corporation, 11.8 million, and others. Outstanding loans to state-owned corporations as of June 2020. Outstanding, right? Kenya Railways, in billions of shillings, 473 billion.
Wow.
KenGen, 115 billion. KPLC, 75 billion. Athi Water, 39 billion. Coast Water, 26 billion. Rural Electrification, 13 billion. Lake Victoria South, 13 billion. KU, 10 billion. Lake Victoria North, there's North and South, 7 billion. Others, 68 billion.
What do they use the money for?
Beyond just running their affairs. Remember, many of these parastatals also have ongoing projects that are supposed to either expand the capacity of the ministry that they're nestled in.
Yeah.
Now, it is here where we often have our problems. You hear they're involved in some mitigation projects. You hear that they're involved in building, in rescuing some development authority.
Yeah.
You hear that the development authority is involved in X number of activities. The end product, which is the finished product, is often what is wanting.
So the issue here is on basically managing those projects.
Yes.
Yeah. So money has come. You put it out there. There's a plan. We need to do this and the other because it's important. That's the mandate of this organization.
That is why they're being
But we
given
don't have the money.
Yes.
So the National Treasury gets the money for you.
They do.
And you start the project. And you maybe even complete the project. But what you are projecting to raise out of that so that you can repay the loan does not come through.
No, it doesn't.
And then the National Treasury just pays off and no questions asked. We move on.
They write it off in your books and they pay it to whoever they borrowed it from. This forms part of this huge 7 trillion debt we keep talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There's an interesting story on page 7 of the Standard today. Meru South Sub-County that neighbors Tharaka Nithi County has been renamed Chuka Sub-County. Interior and Coordination of National Government Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i announced the changes in a Gazette notice dated October 29th, bringing to an end confusion that started with the creation of multiple districts in the 90s and early 2000s. James Koroi from Kiereni said renaming Meru South to Chuka Sub-County will make it easier to identify the area. Having the Meru tag was misleading because many thought we are in Meru Sub-County, yet we are Chuka. It gives us an identity. I'm not sure if renaming comes with any economic benefits, though. Dr. Matiang'i also established other sub-counties in the country, so the move is to enhance coordination of the functions of the national government. He also established new administrative units, Muthui Sub-County in Meru County. Igembe North MP Maoka Maure hailed the move to form the new administrative unit. So, Meru South Sub-County now becomes Chuka Sub-County because Chuka is in Tharaka Nithi.
Yes.
And calling it Meru South, it was called Meru South before.
The whole area was called Meru anyway.
It was Meru anyway.
Yes.
Yes. So now, with the coming up of the county governments, and now there's Meru, there's Tharaka-Nithi, there's Embu.
Yes.
Now, Meru South
It's actually Chuka.
is Chuka.
Yes. It has always been Chuka.
But people call it Meru. So we Meru South, no, maybe Chuka. What do you mean?
It's something that I can relate to very easily because I am looking at the way constituencies were created and the naming of the constituencies and then the reconfiguration of it, where you find maybe some constituencies disappear, others are created. And sometimes it's a throwback to what previously was there. Sometimes it's just a creation of something new. But the process that is undertaken usually involves, if there's something where public participation was involved, it's in these things. If I'm talking about it historically. I don't know whether that's what they did here. But locals were called and they were talked, and it was understood that this is what was preferred.
Yes. I think this one was just a clear oversight. Because by the time we're creating the counties and the administrative units in 2010, then there's the reorganization of the provincial administration to fit in the new county administration. This should have happened. It should have been very clear that, okay, so now we have this is called the Eastern Region.
Yes.
In the Eastern Region, we have these sub-counties. We have the county commissioner, the county commissioner, and then we're going to have a sub-county commissioner. Wait, the sub-county commissioner for Chuka is being sent to Meru South.
Problem, isn't it?
Yeah. It should have been clear at that point. Maybe there was something else that was delaying. Maybe there was some other thinking or some political push and pull.
There always is some political push and pull. There always is. There always is. And also, if it doesn't involve any redrawing of the boundary, then it's fine. But sometimes the reason why it becomes a hot subject of debate is because boundaries are redrawn. And when a boundary is redrawn, it means voting patterns have been altered.
Yes.
Yes.
So things change now.
Things change. Yes.
Another story before you look at another one.
Yes.
Auditor General exposes rot in management of CDF. Several lawmakers cannot account for millions of taxpayers' money after an Auditor General report exposed irregular disbursement of bursaries and allocation for various projects funded by the national government CDF. Auditor General Nancy Gathongo's report tabled in the National Assembly revealed how MPs irregularly hire casual workers who end up pocketing millions of shillings in salaries. A number of development projects funded by the CDF have also stalled after gobbling up millions of shillings. In Mathare constituency, for example, the fund irregularly recruited 27 additional officers and spent 2.4 million to pay salaries. The audit report of 2018-2019 financial year further shows that there was no advertisement or interviews conducted to hire the new staff. The fund also spent 240,000 shillings in office rent during the year. However, available records indicate that the fund had an office block constructed in the previous years at 22.5 million shillings. A total of 4 million shillings was also incurred on renovations, tiling and partitioning of the said offices during the year under review. So here's what's happening in Mathare. In the previous year, they built an office that cost them 22.5 million shillings. How big is that as an office? That's like a whole health center.
That's a massive place.
22.5 million shillings CDF office.
CDF office?
Yes.
What does it do?
It's a CDF office. That's
CDF.
where you go to apply for bursaries. That's where the CDF committee sits and meets and decides what projects to roll out. 22.4 million shillings. That is just one bit. Okay? It was built. Then, in this financial year of 2018-2019, they decided we need to renovate this office in Imechaka. They spent 4 million shillings tiling, partitioning of offices and all. Okay? On top of that, they paid rent.
I need you to explain this to me. I thought they had put up a building.
They have a building.
And so the rent is for?
And they have renovated the building.
Yes. So
they have partitioned the building.
Okay, I get
but
that.
They have paid 240,000 shillings in office rent. That's what the Auditor General is asking. So, who are you paying?
Is there some other premise that they've rented?
It's not clear. Even if they've rented some other premise, it's a constituency. You have a CDF office. What's your issue? Why are you renting elsewhere? Centro Imenti, the fund cannot support the expenditure of 27.4 million shillings disbursed as bursaries. The fund's bursary committee minutes could not provide details on how the applicants were picked. In the circumstances, the accuracy, completeness, and validity of the bursaries amounting to 27.4 million shillings could not be confirmed. Basically, the Auditor General is saying, okay, they said that they've given out bursaries to the tune of 27 million shillings, but we are asking, so show us the process of identifying the beneficiaries of these bursaries and how they were each receiving. In absence of that, we cannot then say that you actually paid bursary. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. We just cannot tell from your documents. Higher. It also questions irregular transfer of 52 million shillings to 3 schools for construction of renovation of buildings, as there were no documents to show expenditure of the money. Imenti Central sent 52.5 million shillings to 3 schools for renovation. 52.5 million shillings to 3 schools for renovations. No documentation shows where and how this money was utilized. But 52 million went
for renovation
to 3 schools. These schools are Gatuatine, Ngene, and Kirigara primary schools, listed to have been benefited from this cash.
Why don't they just build new premises instead? You know, that's a lot of money, my friend.
That's some serious money.
You know, classrooms are not complicated.
Yes. In fact, in some cases, if indeed there was this work that happened, right? And maybe the CDF committee had forgotten how to document, the Auditor General could go and see, all right, so there's a bill there. This is the work that was done. Clearly, there must be some receipt somewhere. The Auditor General basically just did not find receipts.
To do that work without it. Should you see some indicators as to how that money was spent?
Yes.
It's not possible. It doesn't matter which part of the country you're in. Someone is given a contract to do that work, they will have documentation for what they're doing.
Yep.
Yes.
In many of these cases, you'll find, so it's watu ya mjengo walilipwa. You know, there were casual laborers who were coming on a daily basis. You know, they were just coming and receiving the money.
No.
And you know,
Eric, how then do you know that somebody was paid if they don't sign that they were?
CDF. That's what happens. It's 13 minutes to 7. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
12 minutes to 7. What are you looking at?
Eric, what I'm looking at is something which is not as interesting as the other things I had been looking at. This is in the East Africa. No?
Okay.
Hidden hand of Gulf states in Sudan crisis.
Right.
Okay. Now, what is happening in Sudan is easy to understand. But the reason why this particular article, should we say, caught my attention, is because it dovetails from what's happening in Ethiopia next door.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it also tells me what's happening in Somalia.
Yep.
Okay? And the thing that is mentioned in all these cases is that the Gulf states are involved. What are they talking about? They're talking about Saudi, they're talking about the Emirates, they're talking about Qatar. Okay? That somewhere along the line, they're involved in all these processes. Now, the EU, Americas, and the usual World Bank backers and lenders have pulled out of some of these. They have taken a backseat. Again, I find it interesting. Maybe there's something about foreign diplomacy that I don't understand. But this is the same thing that these people do all the time. There is a problem, and they move away. And then it escalates, and then at some point in the future, they now want to get involved again. And I'm thinking, but would it not have been better if you had a discussion even as it was taking place?
Do they actually move away?
No. They don't move away, but what they do is they create a scenario of isolation.
They use proxies.
Yes.
They don't move away, in my opinion. What they will do is they'll use proxies.
You see why I say
As we're talking about this Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, those other countries that we're talking about of the West are also involved.
What you're saying is that it is the West being involved through Qatar, through the Emirates,
Yes.
through Saudi.
Yes. There's some support that they are giving. There are those that are looking at what does Qatar want? What's Qatar doing? All right. So Qatar and Saudi Arabia are operating, at cross purposes. So let's support Qatar on this. Let's support Saudi Arabia on this. We are okay with this conversation as it's going on. We are offering some sort of advisory services as well. I do not think that they just sit back away.
Beyond what one may refer to as a sphere of influence.
Yeah.
What is there to be gained? Somalia, I understand. I get very well. Sudan, I understand ish.
Ish?
Yes, ish.
Why?
You see, why the ish is this, Where do I draw the line between what I may call internal strife, which some people have gotten into to help fuel, and where do I start looking at this great interest that would make one want to get involved? I said beyond just a sphere of influence. That's what I mean.
What do you gain from the sphere of influence? Because even sphere of influence is towards a certain end.
It is towards a certain end.
It's economic.
Yes.
All of it is business and economic.
It is business.
Because you look at Sudan, it's a vast country. It has access to oil.
It does.
It has, serious potential for development. It has been operating backwards for very many years. So there's opportunity here for you to come in and participate in what we call development.
Yes.
Right? Because of the many years of oppression and regression and all. So this is an opportunity for you to jump. Same thing with Ethiopia. These years, now Ethiopia's second most populous country in Africa. What's the potential of it? How shall we benefit from this country in the next phase of this country? Because what is inevitable is that these countries will have to move forward.
Yes.
So it's just planting yourself at that point. So the people have come in and they've started making noise, and yes, we have taken advantage of that and gotten al-Bashir out. And we are saying now we are bringing a new country, a new system of government that's going to be democratic. In this democratic new system of government, we still want to have some control. So, let the military, the head of the military be the head of state, as we transition into this kind of democracy. And then let's see who else, which friend of ours can form this civilian part of government? Which friend of ours is in the military who is also playing our game?
You see, why this concerns me is the ripple effect of it.
Yep.
Sudan sneezes, South Sudan will catch a cold, Ethiopia will have rumblings of a cold, and we will also be affected.
Yep.
Egypt will also not go unscathed. So, are we suggesting and looking at a situation where somebody knows full well the ramifications of this, and that a destabilized region is actually good for them?
Yep. They're playing ahead, I think.
Because this is what happens. The region will be destabilized.
What does the story say, though? What's this hidden hand of the Gulf states in Sudan?
I don't know why these main stories are all on page 4 and 5. Again, this one is also on page 4 and 5. Doesn't matter which paper it is, okay? Coup leader Burhan is not a pariah like Bashir, nor is he an Islamist. See what you're saying? But he has tacit backing of Egypt, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Report says looking to the oil-rich Gulf states for bailout and backing. Okay. The Sudan coup leaders have shrugged off global pressure, even as protests dig in for confrontations to push for reinstatement of civilian administration in Khartoum. The generals who engineered a coup to replace the transitional government of Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok seem to be savoring the benefits of divisions within the influences in the international community, including the United Nations, on decisive actions to restore order in the country. They are further emboldened by the shadow of Egypt and the Gulf monarchies as the US and Bretton Woods institutions mull freezing aid. As the world scrambles to save what has been promising but a shaky transition to civilian rule, the years of isolation on October 25th, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan the leader of the Transitional Sovereign Council ordered his troops to raid residences of civilian government officials, including the Prime Minister. Observers say this has long been in the making. It isn't new. And the military was only waiting for an opportunity to strike. Some argue that Sudan's influential military profited from the African Union's lukewarm response to the chaos afflicting the transition. Bashir left, and after Bashir left, the country has not been stable.
Yep. Bashir left because the people were up against that leadership.
Yes, they were.
Okay. But the military was powerful because of all those years of Bashir. Military was powerful.
Bashir himself having been a military person himself.
Yes. Now the people are saying we want civilian. The military comes and says, yeah, we'll go civilian. But you see now, let's also look at the clean side of the military. It's not at all military is bad. So you have this leader who is not as radical as Bashir, who is not Islamist, as they call it, who is looking at all these things, who's looking statesmanly. And he says, yeah, let's have a transition. Let's bring in civilian rule. Civilian leaders come in. And then suddenly we have issues. The other day when he was talking, he was saying that the reason why they started raiding these offices is because some of these civilian leaders, ministers, were starting to incite and stoke fires against the military. And they said, no, now this is now breaking the peace that we have.
The understanding we had here, yes.
Yeah, so we removed them. We are okay with the Prime Minister coming in and selecting his own government, but he should know who not to pick.
I fight with him.
He should know who not to pick in this new government. We are okay with him. In fact, now we have released him from prison. He is at home under house arrest. He's okay. We are willing to have this conversation. It's not all bad. Meanwhile, people are out on the streets demonstrating and protesting. Some have died.
If it continues, some will die.
Yep.
So, do you know what what is happening? We are back to a very early time in the previous century where there were coups and counter-coups on this continent. It's like every other day.
Yeah.
We seem to be heading in that direction again.
Heading back there. Only this time, I think we're moving forward.
Why do you say we're moving forward, Derek?
I think we're moving forward. In this particular cases, so yes, there's seeking international backing, wanting to have access to money so that you're able to run your government. Moving forward in that, there's now more openness and conversation. So even as you lead a coup, you're trying to involve the people. Even as you stifle some moves by some people, you're still trying to involve the citizens in one way or another. It's a bit different.
The thing is, if you look at the transition government under Dr. Hamdok, the Ethiopian Prime Minister was very instrumental in helping shepherd this thing along. Okay? He was part of that authority, the group that discussed these matters. Now, if the person who it was agreed would be the Prime Minister is then removed, back to square one.
Yeah.
And then he has his own problems. And his problems are even more acute than people realize. One of the things that is not in the public domain is that Tigrayans, when they were in power, ensured that all the fighter jets that they had in that country, the only pilots that could pilot them were Tigrayans. This is something that most people don't know. So you tell me, you have a situation where you have planes, but only Tigrayans can fly them. As for ammunition, they stockpiled ammunition and it's in Tigray. So when they decide that they want to secede and you want to fight them, what are you going to fight them with exactly?
They have serious military capability.
Oh, it is extremely serious, my friend.
And we're talking about a people that comprise about 7% of the population of Ethiopia. 7%.
Yes.
The largest ethnic group, the Oromo, are not anywhere close to this kind of access to power.
No, they do not. Now, you tell me, with that sort of a full-scale war, who do you think is likely to be the victor? Because they have the ammunition, they have they made sure that military might was nestled within their.
Yeah.
So that region.
And also remember, they are fighters. They are the ones who were very, very, very active in removing the military regime of Haile Mariam.
Yes, they were.
The Tigrayans were really, really instrumental in this. Anyway, let's go to the news first. We'll continue the conversations. How you doing? It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta will join world leaders in Glasgow, Scotland for a UN conference on climate change. During the first day of talks, President Kenyatta is expected to brief other leaders at the summit on Kenya's strategies to address the problem. Despite not being involved in contributing to the effects of climate change, Kenya is at the forefront in tackling it. Kenya was the first African country to pass a law on climate change in 2016, where it agreed that 90% of the electricity used should be harmless and aims to achieve 100% by 2030. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is tomorrow expected to meet with Kenyatta in a session on innovation. With just 1 day left before the month-long voter listing process comes to a close, figures from IEBC shows that the Commission will fail to hit its target by a huge margin. As of last evening, the IEBC had registered 1.14 million new voters compared to the 6 million targeted voters. IEBC commissioners have expressed disappointment after Kenyans failed to show up to be registered despite hoping that they would show up in numbers to be registered during the last week. With the numbers being low, many ask what next for Kenyans, and mostly IEBC, who have maintained that it will not extend the listing process due to tight budgets. ODM leader Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja campaigns are expected to hit the climax this month before formally announcing his candidacy for the presidency in next year's polls. Odinga, who is in Dubai, is expected to hold Azimio la Umoja campaigns this month in Ukambani region this month, which will be among the last meetings in his calendar. Odinga plans to conclude his meetings in Nairobi, where various local and foreign leaders are expected, including President Uhuru Kenyatta. This comes as the Azimio la Umoja has been registered by the Registrar of Political Parties, which is thought to be the name of a coalition in the offing. Last week, Registrar of Parties Anne Derito granted a request by Suna East for his inclusivity.
We made a covenant as Kenyans that we will never allow politics again to divide us, that we are going to be united. Our politics will be non-violent, non-divisive, non-ethnic, so that we can unite the country even in our politics.
Former Vice President, former Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi ameangaishwa kabisa, mpaka ikakuja alipoenda Kakamega machozi ikamtoka, akasema I am being forced, being coerced, being intimidated physically, emotionally, threats kuunga mkono ule mzee wa kitandawili akuwe rais wa Kenya.
He added that the 2022 contest will be between UDA William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga, he labels as Uhuru's project.
The next contest for 2022 will be between the people's choice, the people's candidate, the leader of the hustler nation, William Samoei Ruto, versus the government and President Uhuru Kenyatta's project.
49 of the 59 students who were admitted to the hospital following the fire at Buruburu Girls High School have been discharged from hospital. 10 others remain admitted. According to the school principal and management of Metropolitan and Jama hospitals, most of them had injuries from jumping from the second floor and also inhaling smoking and congestion. The fire broke out at 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. A video that has been circulating online shows students jumping through the windows. Officials from the Nairobi Metropolitan Services and Nairobi Hospital arrived to assist in putting out the fire. Internationally, a knife and arson attack on the underground train line in Tokyo has left 17 people injured. Police arrested a 24-year-old man who was wearing a costume similar to the Joker character from the Batman comics. The attack happened as many people headed for Halloween parties. Witnesses say the suspect sprayed a clear liquid around the carriage and set it alight. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Let me tell you, my friend. So you're coming towards town from Mombasa Road, anywhere along Mombasa Road. You get to Okoh Hotel, you'll find traffic starts from there. It goes all the way past the South Sea Bridge, heading towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. You know why? It's because there's a new diversion that's been created by the contractor of the expressway near the Capital Centre and South Sea CID Training School. So traffic heading towards the airport has been diverted towards the lanes that head towards town, and that means that the lanes toward town have been constricted to a single lane. That is the reason why you'll find all that traffic there. Everywhere else coming towards town, especially Mlolongo, Syokimau Airport Road, that's busy a bit, but it's moving. When you get to airport area, it's moving. When you get to City Cabanas, it's moving. When you get to General Motors, it's moving. This morning, it's actually all the way good until you get to the Okoh Hotel. That's where you will find problems. And then more Thika Road, it starts, now it's gone all the way. My goodness. It's... So from the outer ring, from, let's just say, from Roasters coming towards town, it's all busy, and that's how it's going to look like throughout. Let's look at how it's going to be looking like in about half an hour. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
This is the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We're glad that you're tuned in. This morning, Ndu Okoh is away, so it's only Eric Latiff and C.T. Muga. And we're glad that you're tuned in wherever you are tuned in from. South Africa, Pulani Chauke is tuned in from Paarl, Western Cape. This is Diani listening, Kevin Deche. Blasto in Langata is tuned in. Evans Nyangodo says, I volunteered to sit in for Ndu Okoh today. Yes, welcome, Evans. Go ahead, sit in. And Yegon says, hello, City.
Thank you, Yegon. How are you?
He's been so committed of late, but he's all right. He's in Wajir today. So, give us today's proverb, City.
Wakwea guni na viratu. Wakwea guni na viratu.
Taita.
Yes. Have you climbed the roof with your sandals on?
So do it again and put a question mark at the end of that.
Or even an exclamation.
Yeah. Put it. Say.
Wakwea guni na viratu. It could be a statement. This person is climbing the roof with his shoes.
Yeah.
Or with his sandals. Or you make it a question mark. You are climbing the roof.
You?
Yes. You see, the tone is now what makes the question. It could be the same statement. You're climbing the roof with your sandals. But now to phrase it as a question, it would be, are you climbing the roof with your sandals?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yani, you've decided this is what you want to do.
That's exactly it. Of all the things you could do, you've thought and determined that the best thing to do is to climb onto the roof with your
sandals.
Yes, with your flip-flops.
Surely.
Even you.
Buena. So, this continuing story of the lady called Agnes Wanjiru, who died at a hotel in 2012, it continues. Yesterday, the paper that first broke the news, which was the Sunday Times, had some more articles yesterday on this particular story. And it is that the British soldier accused of killing the woman on a night out in Kenya joined his fellow squaddies as they exchanged emojis making light of the tragedy. So this is what was happening. Several years after the battered body of a Kenyan woman was discovered in a septic tank near where she was last seen entering a hotel room with a British soldier, a post appeared on Facebook. A member of the Duke of Lancaster Regiment, some of whose soldiers were in the Lions Court Hotel bar that night, but who had left the country by the time the corpse was discovered, posted 2 pictures from outside the venue where 21-year-old Agnes Wanjiru was last seen alive and where her body was found. They were accompanied by the caption, "If you know, you know." So they went on Facebook. They posted some photos of this Lions Court Inn in Nanyuki, and the caption was, "If you know, you know." The soldiers tagged a number of other squaddies to notify them. Several soldiers, at least one of whom is still with the regiment, responded. One posted a picture of a ghost emoji, to which another added the words, "septic tank." In response, Soldier X, who is widely alleged in the regiment to have been responsible for the murder, got involved, posting an emoji of an angel, often used to assert innocence. This prompted other soldiers to post crying with laughter emojis, followed by a cartoon image of a baby crying at a funeral from the television show Family Guy. Wanjiru was a single mother. She left behind a 5-month-old daughter. Soldier X was then asked if he gets all choked up thinking about that place. Now, this is in apparent reference to the account that he is said to have given members of the regiment that he accidentally choked and killed Wanjiru during sex. He replied, "Come to think of it, I have had a sore throat today." Another soldier responded to his comment with a laughter emoji, while the soldier who had asked him the question responded, "Wow, wow, 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 wow." 9 soldiers were involved in the Facebook conversation, adding weight to previous claims made by others in the regiment that Wanjiru's death and the name of the man said to be responsible was an open secret. So if you just look at that Facebook conversation and you contextualize it, you start seeing. Because they post a photo of the hotel, the Lion Inn, where they were, and then they say, "If you know, you know." Somebody comes and comments, "septic tank." Someone else comes and comments with a devil emoji. Then the person who's alleged to be the one behind the killing puts in an innocent emoji. Someone else asks him, "Do you sometimes choke up at memories of that night?" Come to think of it, he says, "I had a sore throat this morning."
That's making really light of it, isn't it?
Yes. And then someone else posts the cartoon of a child crying at a funeral. And all these things are basically just, if you mention septic tank, you say the hotel, you say choking, you say funeral, you say you're like, all right. So clearly they talk about it. They've talked about it even afterwards. Now, what happens is the conversation then goes on in this particular report. Okay, so what action has been taken? The action that has been taken so far is none, because the soldier hasn't been questioned neither by the British military nor by the Kenyan police. The British say that it's only recently that the Kenya police asked for assistance. Britain is accusing Kenyan police of sluggish investigations into the killing of a woman in Laikipia in 2012. The murder of Agnes Wanjiru at a resort in Nanyuki has been thrust in the global limelight following revelations by the UK newspaper of an official cover-up. Yesterday, UK Secretary of State for Defence Ben Wallace, who is expected in the country this week, said Kenyan police only made a formal request for DNA samples this week, almost 10 years after the death. "We are responding to the formal request." He added that the Royal Military Police is in daily contact with its Kenyan counterpart and assisting with lines of inquiry in the UK. The DNA request is with respect to 9 British soldiers who had booked into the Lions Court Inn in Nanyuki on the night that Wanjiru was killed. The Sunday Times in London last week reported that an investigation initiated by police back then identified the soldiers for questioning and asked the British Royal Military Police to interview them and take DNA samples. However, the Ministry of Defence said it never received any such request and DNA samples were never provided, causing the inquiry to stall. Yesterday, the nation sought to find out why the Kenyan police would ask for DNA samples nearly 10 years later. And the spokesman, Mr. Bruno Shioso, said he was out of town and promised to respond as soon as he gets back to the capital. See the game now being played here?
I do.
At that point, the people who discovered the body called the police. Police took in some statements around there and they established, all right, so we may need to question some people in Batuk. They asked the Royal Military Police, these soldiers were booked into this facility on this night. Please question them. That is not followed up. No DNA samples are taken, allegedly because there was no formal request. There's an inquest that's conducted by a magistrate. It says investigations should be conducted on the soldiers who were here on that day. That doesn't take place. This newspaper starts exposing this story, and that's when now we are seeing, the British say they have now received formal requests for DNA. Now.
How many years later?
10.
You know, one understands that the history of the British soldiers in this country spans back to the previous century. It didn't start yesterday, okay? And cases involving these very same soldiers are not hitting the news for the first time with this particular incident. No. The question that one has to ask now, if it isn't intruding on national security issues, is what is so important that the British have to come and train in Kenya? Why is it that this is where they must come and train? What is it about the terrain that they're coming to train in that makes it imperative for them? They had colonies all over the world. Why don't they choose some other place to go and train? Let me explain why I'm asking this simple question rather than the simplistic sounding question. For them to consistently choose these places as a training, there is some enormous benefit that the soldiers derive from it. And these are some of the benefits of having an understanding with a friendly nation. Just in the same way as we now have some understanding that some of our nurses will be going to the UK to work as nurses.
Yeah.
And the government is working on an arrangement to formalize these processes so that nurses trained in Kenya can actually go and work in the UK. It is something quite similar. But when you look at an incident such as this one here, it's unfortunate that in the manner in which this one has been handled, it's a sort of incident that sours relationship that ordinarily would have been very, very good relationships. And that is what raises the question that I'm asking. So, okay, we have this understanding with you, and for you to come here, there must be something that you benefit from. Forget the question I asked initially. How do you train your soldiers in handling locals? What are the safeguards that you put in place to ensure that the soldiers being here, they fulfill the mandate and they're being here doesn't have any adverse effects on the locals
and
that
the community that they work with?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you do? What are these guarantees?
And what safeguards does the Kenyan government put in place to make sure that this happens as well? That throughout, there's a mechanism of open conversation between the host community and the soldiers that are here.
Yes.
What do you have? If they're training, if something happens and there's a report to be made, how is it escalated?
What process is there laid down that has to, when this happens, this is what happens?
Yep.
Every time you have an arrangement of this nature, let's talk about scholarships. Huh? Scholarships to the US, the one thing that were a must, upon completion of your course, you went back to your country. The understanding was that you were being trained so that you can enhance the human resource capacity of your country. So you don't train and then you remain in the host country. You go back. It's understood. What are the details, obvious, clear, or salient about these relationships with regard? Because where the soldiers train, they are locals, and there are many.
Yep.
It has to be clear.
I think you may find that in the agreements that are drafted and signed, it's all very well laid out. It's very well laid out because it's not the first time that, for example, British soldiers are training outside their country.
No.
It's not the first time that Kenyan soldiers even go to train or even to conduct joint training with other armies and militaries.
No,
so there must be, it's very clear. Now, that is what is on paper. But what's on practice? What's in practice, we'll find that they're different. There's different things. And also now being influenced by other factors here, like, we really do not want to spoil the relationship that we have here, because that's also part of what is quoted here. That some of the reasons that they were not so quick to react is, the kind of benefit that we derive from just these soldiers being in this area. For example, the last time we had a head of military, or the defense secretary in Kenya, he went to open a new facility in Batuk. That facility is employing very many Kenyans in the area. So it's creating employment, it's creating good relations. How many Kenyan personnel are trained in these joint training exercises that are conducted between Kenyan and the British soldiers? Overall, just having them here and our fight against Al-Shabaab and other extremism in the region, how is it benefiting us? So the weight of all this says that there's a way we shall,
so
look the other way.
You don't want to sour the relationship because of this one incident.
Because of, yes.
That logic is very lopsided. Would those interests not be served if you showed that you had a clear way of respecting the locals by handling these issues the way you would if it was one of your own?
Infinitely much more better.
If you sweep it under the rug and then it comes out in the open, you no longer have control over that narrative. It will take all sorts of directions. And yet, if you show that there is a clear path by which you manage such affairs, then it is clear that you have the interest. The discussion here goes beyond the death of this young lady. The discussion here is about human rights. Are they trained to value the lives of locals? Are they trained to value the lives of locals in the same way they value their own lives and the lives of their people? Because what we are seeing here, with all the reason they're giving, is that the lives of locals don't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Not really.
There's a bigger thing. Look at what the story was saying. The Ministry of Defense in London has gone back on suggestions that it was mounting its own investigation into Wanjiru's death, with military sources admitting the policy was confused. Why is it confused? They insisted that the responsibility to get to the bottom of what happened rested with the Kenyan authorities, who they said were approaching the case with lethargy. Kenya has not submitted a formal mutual legal assistance request for help in obtaining evidence. However, the MOD said it has now been asked for the DNA of the soldiers. This matter has gone to the UK Parliament. John Healey, the Shadow Defence Secretary, has written to Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, branding the response inadequate and claiming that there was evidence to suggest the case was actively suppressed. Conservative MP John Mercer, a former veterans minister, said the MOD's inability to deal with the serious incidents was pathetic. When he was questioned by the Commons Defence Select Committee last week over the alleged cover-up, Ben Wallace said the investigation was being led by Kenyan police. If they require any support, we'll give them any support. It's them. If they want, they can. We cannot start any investigation on our part because jurisdiction. It's the Kenya police to do it. If they ask us for DNA, we now go and process DNA, we give them. What else do you want? Ask for whatever else you want. But we will not volunteer any information.
If ever somebody was actually in the throes of writing down the standard operating procedure for bungling a situation and souring relationships, we are seeing it being written here.
Yes.
Because you're shifting. Somebody died. Their body was found in a septic tank. And you're doing everything to give this matter as much distance as you possibly can. She didn't throw herself in the septic tank. There's evidence that the people who were involved were Her Majesty's soldiers. And you are saying you have no jurisdiction. It is a Kenyan affair because it is a local Kenyan girl who was dumped in that particular septic tank. So it's a Kenyan affair. It is. It is a Kenyan affair.
But then there's a responsibility of the military itself. Because this issue, if Ben Wallace should be saying, we are also conducting investigations to find out who knew what. As the soldiers are claiming that they reported to their superiors, did the superiors actually receive such a report? What action did they take? Did they suppress it? Did they want to look away? Did they do anything to the soldiers? Because they could have done their own investigation and said, we have found that you have conducted yourself inappropriately in a foreign country. And therefore, we are dismissing you from the military, or we are imposing certain fines on you. They haven't done anything like that. Listen to what the story continues to say. A Kenyan diplomatic source in Nairobi has claimed that the government there wanted to suppress an investigation into the alleged murder because of strong relations between Britain and Kenya, and they were so crucial for security. The source says Kenya could not afford to risk damaging that relationship, which was vital in the country's fight against Al-Shabaab, adding that without the UK's intelligence and defense support, Kenya would be ungovernable. Britain uses Kenya as a significant training ground for its troops, with soldiers practicing in the heat and arid terrain, and more than 1,000 Kenyan soldiers a year learn skills from British forces to try to defeat Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Ben Wallace recently opened a £70 million facility for the British Army Training Unit in Kenya, which provides 400 jobs, and which Wallace said cemented our partnership for decades to come. You see, all these things that are happening now would justify why would want to suppress this particular case. It was one unfortunate incident. Yes, a young woman died, but can we just move on?
No, we can't actually. Between the years 1863 and 1998, the Canadian government ran boarding schools for what they referred to as indigenous children. This year, the body of 1,000 indigenous children were actually found buried.
1,000 indigenous children.
In British Columbia.
Right.
Found. Okay? And as they keep digging, it hasn't stopped. More and more bodies are being found. The stink this incident has brought to bear, not on the province of British Columbia, but on the Canadian government, has been immense. What has resurrected is that age-old story of indigenous people and the way they were managed by the Europeans who actually came to those regions. It has not forget reignited, it has exploded that particular issue. When an incident such as this one occurs, what it does, it brings back memories of colonialism. It brings back memories of the way in which people were thrown into concentration camps. It brings back all the negative memories that people thought had been done away with, and that a certain humane era had been entered into where human beings were treated like human beings. One incident takes you back to those horrible dark days when Africans were actually considered to be subhuman. Now, somebody may think I'm overreaching on this matter. Actually, I'm not. This young lady clearly was not somebody who, out of, should we say, a choice of 1,001 things that she could do with her life, decided, let me go and have a drink with these soldiers. All indications are that she was working.
Yep. And she was not the only one in this hotel that night.
No.
And she was working.
She was working.
Yep.
She goes to work, she ends up dying. Now, how such a person is treated is not the subject of an individual and the way they are treated. No. It is the systemic way in which people are viewed, because it is the way you are viewed that determines how you are treated. So it begs the question, if this is how this citizen of our country is actually treated and considered, how are the rest of us considered and treated? It's just that we haven't had an opportunity to be treated badly, but how are we really considered? If the UK government is handling this matter of this particular young lady in this way, in my mind, it's telling me a great deal of what they think of the rest of us Kenyans. One of your own is involved in an issue, it is our issue. We understand it. It happened in our soil. But your actions are not the actions of somebody who is respecting our system. They're the actions of somebody who is giving the matter distance.
Yep.
And giving it distance with a tinge, indicating that it isn't of that great an importance for you to be involved in.
Yeah, there are bigger things, but
let's move on.
Let's focus on the bigger picture.
400 people have been employed.
Yes.
Yeah, we get it. We get it. So one person dies. So the employment of 400 people is more important than the issue of one person who died and the matter is not resolved. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because she isn't the only one who has been killed under these circumstances.
Of course not.
She's not the only person who has been killed. And this is a young person, for heaven's sake.
And you can imagine, so let's even assume, let's just go back and say, okay, from the accounts that we've read of this story and what was happening that night, it was clearly a night of some serious debauchery.
Yes, it was.
Right? Where this, choking and all was taking place. Let's just say she didn't die. But were they being treated humanely?
Why throw in the septic
These
tank?
women who came, whatever else was happening in that room.
How are they treated?
How were they being treated by their clients?
Yes.
Who are your soldiers? How were they treating them? Were they treating them as human beings, or were they treating them as these
objects,
lesser objects and mere mortals that could just be done away with? Because I'm paying you, therefore I can step
treat
on
you as I see fit, and I can kill you if I so see
yeah.
fit.
If you die, you die. Gives a very different story here. Let's take a break. It's 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room with Eric Latiff and CT Muga. Our colleague Ndu Okoh is away today. Hopefully she'll be back tomorrow or the day after. So we want to take a look at the weather and traffic, and we'll continue these conversations. A very good morning to you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. The weather.
All right,
with
so how's it
Spice
looking
FM?
like? Nairobi is going to be partly cloudy, partly sunny day today, with highs of 26, currently at 17 degrees. Mombasa, light rains throughout the day today at 31 degrees. Kisumu, partly sunny day at 30. Malindi, mostly sunny day at 31. Nyeri, mostly cloudy day at 26. Nakuru, partly sunny day at 27. In Western Kenya, sunny day at 24. Let's go around the region. Kampala, Uganda, mostly sunny day at 29. Dar es Salaam, light rains at 30. And Kinshasa, DRC, light rains at 31. In Nigeria, it's mostly cloudy day, mostly clear day at 31. Let's go to Johannesburg, South Africa. Sunny day at 28. China, Beijing, sunny day at 15. Currently at 9 degrees. Paris, France, mostly cloudy day at 13. And New York, clear skies at 17 today.
Spice up your life.
All right, so if you're coming to town from Mombasa Road and you're heading towards town and you get to Okoh and you find some traffic building up, just don't despair. This is happening because there's a new diversion that's been created by the contractor of the road, and it's then restricting the number of lanes available for you heading towards town, because the people heading out of town towards the airport are coming onto your lane. So that's the reason for that traffic. Now, Langata Road, heading towards Timor roundabout, Wewe, it's bad. It goes all the way beyond the bypass, all the way to the military barracks. That is where the traffic begins. So be patient as you head towards town on Langata Road. Jogoo Road heading towards town, it's busy in the area of Makadara. Thika Road coming towards town is also very, very, very busy, starting all the way from Ngomba Estate heading towards town, coming all the way to Pangani. Then it eases off into Muranga Road as well, gets busy again. Westlands, they say that they have reopened between Westlands and ABC Place. Is it true? Is it not true? Because, well, there's still a little bit of traffic there. Whatever you need to let us know so we can alert other people, just let us know, please. Tag us on Twitter at SpiceFMKE. That's our Twitter handle. 40127 is our SMS number.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
right.
94.4 Spice FM.
Looking at something interesting there.
It's something that is actually disturbing. It is on page 12 of the Nation. Tale of war as police gets away with murder. Okay. Now, this is the story of rogue police officers and what it is that happens with cases that are brought before court, before IPOA, and the culmination of them. The opening statement in this particular article is that only 12 out of the registered 18,166 complaints at the Independent Policing Oversight Authority have reached convictions since June 2012.
Only 12 of 18,000 plus.
Yes.
Okay.
It also says 98 others, including dozens of murders, are stuck in courts as the wheels of justice grinds slowly. Now, some of these killings that we speak of have been labeled as accidental. Some have not been accidental. Some have been labeled as outright murder, outright hits. The disturbing thing about it that list keeps growing. It's not diminishing.
And we're talking about a list of complaints against police officers.
Yes, it is. That's what
specifically.
Specific, not other cases, and complaints against police officers in which people have died.
Yeah.
Okay, and they've died because they've been shot. At some point, some bullet entered their bodies and it caused death. The eventual determination of that bullet was that this person died. Now,
or disappeared in police custody and never to be found again.
Yes. Now, our police force also have a Department for Internal Affairs. Now, Internal Affairs are the ones who are supposed to investigate fellow police officers in such matters. Okay. Unfortunately, anything that involved the police within their own service is really rarely ever made that public. You may be told this is what they have undertaken, this is what they're going to do, and it'll end there. You may hear of an outcome, but as to the processes and what is actually happening, you actually hardly ever hear. Why is this article important? It's important because when details of such an important thing is not given fodder, and the details of what is going on isn't given, and you're not allowed to walk through these processes, you then allow people to make up their own mind and to determine what it is they think has happened. Now, once that takes root, and that is the way they see it, all that we will have done is we'll have fostered a very negative attitude, which will definitely hamper the relationship that the civilians have with our police service.
Indeed. And just looking at those cases that have been highlighted here.
Yes.
Delaying tactics, cover-ups, witness killing, intimidation of families make it difficult to prosecute police officers. The cases against officers accused of killing rights lawyer Willie Kimani, his client Joseph Mwendo, and taxi driver Joseph Muiruri has not concluded 5 years later. The prosecution has been dogged by multiple adjournments, the accused claiming to be ill, coupled with many excuses by the defense team that saw Justice Jesse Lassie declare there'd be no more adjustments, I'm done. The three were in gunny bags, a system increasingly being used by killers who hope that the bodies will be eaten by crocodiles or sink to the bottom of rivers or dams, never to be found. Some officers interviewed by The Nation said the main reason for doing this could be to prevent successful prosecution of the killers. For such a case to succeed, there must be a body and a murder weapon. If you're going to court and charge somebody with murder, all right, you murdered so-and-so because we have found the body and it shows that there was some weapon used, and this is the weapon that was used. So it goes on to say, if a person disappears and there's no body, how do you charge anyone with murder? That is why these criminals kill in Nairobi and dump bodies hundreds of kilometers away in central Kenya, Mai Mahiu, or Donyosabuk, or other places where relatives and friends will not even think of looking for them. So it's all systematic. It's all being used as, a way of the police basically just getting away with murder. Should the body be found, chances are it will be taken to a mortuary and later disposed of along unclaimed ones. And this is big because just the other day, the city mortuary was calling on people who have lost their loved ones to go to city mortuary and identify loved ones. Why? More than 100 bodies are lying at the city mortuary since April, unidentified. How do you have 100 people who have disappeared from their families and they are lying at a mortuary in Nairobi and they haven't been identified. And this is just Nairobi. KNH has. Others also have.
What is tragic is that every once in a while you hear of a case of a minor who's been shot.
Yep.
Case in point was a 13-year-old Yasin Hussein Moyo, in Kiamaiko, shot by a police officer by the name of Duncan Ndiema. Not only did a file go missing, that case hasn't even begun. Now, there may be circumstances that could easily be explained as to how the incident occurred. But in the absence of the details of what is going on, what is being done, again, people will come to their own conclusion. And they'll pile it on top of the other conclusions they've made previously. And what this means is that if there was a relationship that had deteriorated between the public and the police service, it just gets worse. This conspiracy and this position that people in government love about keeping quiet and not giving too much information, they may think it is useful in getting the work done. It erodes confidence. And what is certain, if you are talking about mistrust or you're talking about distrust, they are the ones who quickly move the relationship that they have with the people to a complete and heightened level of complete mistrust. Meaning, it is not a question of there is any benefit of doubt. There is no benefit of doubt. Something happens, the blame will fall squarely on them.
Yep.
And yet it need not. Sometimes, I'm at a bit of a loss. I'm at a bit of a loss because when I talk to people who are in the police service and they explain to me the things that they have to do and how they go about it, you suddenly realize, because I've taken the time to talk, why it is certain things happen the way they do. But unfortunately, what I am told and what I know is not in the public domain. Eric, before we had the justice in this court on Thursday last week, and they were talking about the bottlenecks that they face. Justice Mabe outlined it very, very clearly and stated how it is they're hampered to do what they're supposed to do, given the caseload they have, the cases they have, and the resources that they have at their disposal. The Small Claims Court, it was explained to us again by the Honorable Resident Magistrate very clearly. If they hadn't been here to explain it, the narrative that has been spun that the bottleneck to justice is the judicial system would still have held, because we would have had no other understanding of what actually happens.
Yep.
But it was explained, and because it was explained, you now have an idea and you say, aha. So this slow pace, this is what brings about the slow pace. Is it possible for those who are in critical institutions within government and whose decisions, the lives of very many people depend, is it possible for them to actually understand the need to come out and actually explain and tell people and say, this is what has happened? Or do they think that this conspiracy of silence that they seem to love, this conspiracy of quietness and doling out information in small bits is the best?
Is what will happen, is what will work for them. Because, look, even from the police side, you will see that IPOA is saying we have received and we have started process on 18,000 cases.
18,000 are many.
Those are many. It means that there are people who have found it easy to report to IPOA.
Yes.
It also means that IPOA has taken it up themselves and they are able to investigate, to take to a case up to where it needs to go to court.
Yes.
It means that. Now, explain where the bottlenecks are, but also not just from the point of sitting back and explaining, but also looking at how do we speed up these processes? How do we speed up the investigations? If, for instance, there is clear evidence here that somebody was last seen in the custody of police officers and they haven't been seen since, and the family has gone even to court and applied habeas corpus and nobody has been presented before court, what do we do as IPOA? And what do we need to have a conversation around? Is it changing of regulations, changing of the law? Because clearly, all evidence shows that the last time this person was seen, they were with you. there are doubts here on whether you actually release this person from custody. So we can't just say that we cannot institute murder charges because we don't have a body. But what other charges can we institute? What else can we do so that you don't just walk around saying, kienda kotini, it will not move anywhere. So somebody else is kichwa ngumu, we'll go and deal with them like the same way. Because that now has become like a norm. People disappear. Remember the people who disappeared, they were having some nyama around Kitengela and suddenly they were picked up and their families were receiving SMSs. So and so, huyo ameenda, usimgoje.
There were 4 young men, I believe.
Yep.
Some 2 were found.
Some 2 were found somewhere in Muranga.
Yes. And a car abandoned somewhere near a coffee farm.
Yes.
And the other 2,
nothing
has been heard of them.
Yep. And there's no explanation at all. But then stories started coming out, these people are of dubious character. Who do you think is feeding the information out there? It's the police. Is there a link between what you call dubious character, between what you call investigations into these people and their disappearance?
There's a young man driving an upmarket British SUV model picked up in Lavington. The car was found somewhere in Ngong, torched.
Yes.
Did we not go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth? And then in the end, I mean, these activities do not generate confidence. They generate fear, they generate suspicion. And a feeling that there is a lot that is happening that you don't know about.
There's a story on page 7 of The Nation. The puzzle of 3 abductions on the day a convicted terrorist was freed after a 10-year prison term has troubled families of the victims. The convict's mother, his lawyer, and driver of a former assistant minister were abducted on Friday, hours after gunmen seized the man following his release from Committee Maximum Security Prison. Are you hearing the characters here? There's a convicted terrorist who has spent 10 years in prison. He is released from Committee Maximum Security. Upon release, he is seized by gunmen. Jacinta Buire, a sister-in-law of former MP Fred Gumo, and her driver Willis Otieno were released on Saturday night and Sunday morning, respectively. However, Professor Hassan Nandwa, who also disappeared on Friday, was still missing on Sunday evening. Professor Nandwa represented Egilva Buire Oliacha during his trial on terrorism-related charges in 2011. He vanished hours after reporting Buire's disappearance at Central Police Station in Nairobi. Buire, who was convicted for 2 grenade attacks in Nairobi in 2011, has also not resurfaced. 1 person was killed and more than 20 wounded in one of the attacks. It's unclear how Jacinta, a sister of Gumo's wife and an employee of Nairobi County Government, and her driver secured their freedom, or who her abductors were. She had left Gumo's home on Karura Avenue on Friday for Committee Prison to get her son, who had been released a day earlier. Shortly after Buire was dropped in town by his mother, he was reportedly abducted by gunmen. When his mother learnt of the abduction, she went to inform Gumo but was also ambushed on the way. The former minister had asked his longtime driver to drive Jacinta to town in his black Toyota Land Cruiser. About 5:45 p.m. on their way back, a white double-cabin pickup that had been trailing them for a while blocked the Land Cruiser just meters from Gumo's gate. 3 men jumped out of the pickup, ordered Jacinta and Mr. Otieno to get out, forced them into their vehicle and sped away. Yesterday, the family members said they are fine without giving details of where the pair had been held captive. Remember the case of this Buire and the grenade attacks?
I remember very well.
Then he was arrested, he was convicted, he was jailed. He's released, his mother goes to pick him from prison. They come to town, he's dropped in town. Soon after he's dropped in town, he's picked up by some people. Mother calls lawyer, they report. Lawyer, driver, mother abducted. Mother, driver released. Lawyer still missing. Some things are happening in this country, you ask yourself.
You know, the unfortunate thing, Eric, is that all these things at what is the subliminal discussion about it is that the police are involved.
Yes.
There's no evidence.
There's no evidence at all, but just you hear someone has been picked up somewhere in town.
Yes.
Police. There was a clip that was doing the rounds yesterday, actually. I saw, was it yesterday or sometime over this weekend? Same thing. Somebody is in a taxi and they are recording this. In front of them, a car has blocked another vehicle. And then there's some commotion. There are people, there's some burly men who are trying to force somebody into a vehicle and coming out of the vehicle. And then there's a woman who's outside another vehicle who's wailing and saying, oh my God, they've taken my son, they've taken this. And the supposed passenger and the taxi driver are ati unaona nini happen? Hii ni flying squad. Hii ni flying squad. So that's immediate. It's the immediate assumption here.
They are not even agonizing over it. Just a matter of fact.
Hii ni flying squad.
You think of it, Eric, who would be trained, who would have the training to be able to drive, stop the car, have people get out? Who? An ordinary citizen, that's somebody who's trained. Knows exactly how to do it, how to go about it, with minimum fuss, minimum commotion, in less than a minute, done.
Yep, gone. It's always the assumption that it's either going to be the anti-terrorism police unit, the special unit that now replaced the flying squad. There's some police somewhere involved.
Or some ex-police involved.
Some ex-police involved, or some rogue police involved. They're not doing police work. They're doing their own personal, carrying their own personal side jobs. But the thing is, any abduction that you see, people immediately think about the police. And that is very unfortunate.
You know, the unfortunate nature of it borders on the tragic.
Yes.
Because when you have such a view, getting it changed is actually near impossible. How do you get people to look at it differently? How do you? And every day, in the absence of clarity, people are allowed to come to whatever conclusion they see fit.
Especially when many times you also don't see justice.
You know, if it's delayed, it isn't there.
Yeah.
Because it's the outcome, the eventual outcome that tells you justice has been served in this manner. But so long as there's silence around it, and all you keep hearing is a postponement and a further delay and a further delay. We seem to specialize in this country in situations where people die while waiting for justice to actually be served. And yet we know where the problem really is, don't we?
Yep. It's very, very unfortunate.
One last story, Eric.
Yes.
Let me, this is a problem of reading a story, then you forget the page on which you read it. So now here I am looking for that page where I read that particular story.
Are you in the right paper?
Yes, I am actually in the right paper.
Okay.
It's opinion on page 16. It's Charles Nyango Boa. It's a subject that we have discussed ourselves. How it is that we dispose of our waste. Now, the lake has been at the center of this discussion, or water bodies, because very many of the industries that we know of, and with reference specifically to Lake Victoria, many of the industries that are around it actually spread and send their waste directly into the lake, whether it's raw sewage, whether it is a byproduct of some of some chemical nature. Now, Charles Nyango, in his article, in summary, was saying that, you know something, we ought not to just think of these polluters as polluters. We should charge them with genocide against Lake Victoria because they're killing the lake. And in killing the lake, what else do you think they're doing, and who else do you think they're actually killing?
The humans.
Precisely.
It's a freshwater lake, which means something.
It's supposed to mean a great deal, and it's supposed to be the source of very many pleasant things.
Yes.
But in the name of development, as we keep having situations where more and more people live in these areas that surround the lake, then guarantee you'll have more and more waste finding its way to the lake.
We also ought to start from the point of the responsibilities and the duty bearers. So first of all, there is environment and there's a ministry in charge of environment. Then there are bodies such as the National Environment Management Authority.
Yes.
Okay? created by law, given the mandate to go all out there and make sure that we protect our environment and how we are using the environment. In fact, anything that you want to do with the environment, you've got to get permission from NEMA. So, if we still see such massive pollution of our skies, of our rivers, of our lakes, and we still have an authority that sits back and, it's operating, sitting pretty, we should be asking them the questions. Why are you there if we still have these problems? What do we need to do?
That question has been asked many times, Eric. If you remember the cases of the chemical contamination in Mombasa,
the
Athi area, cases in court, some cases won, gone for appeal, it revolves around the same thing. NEMA ought to be the whistleblowers. But NEMA, by all accounts, give the impression, or the impression that is given or that is derived from it, is that they are the ones who actually protect these polluters. And protect in the sense that what they ought to do and what they can do, given the mandate that they have, they don't do.
They don't do.
Yes.
But what is it that leads NEMA to be like that?
It's not NEMA. The organization is an inanimate object. It is the people who run it.
People come, people go.
People come, people go. But remember, we have a national ethos. Accumulation. Everyone in any position, especially of government and they have authority, the understanding is that you are in that position to exercise your power to amass as much wealth as you possibly can. That seems to be the understanding.
And when you're brought into this organization, you've been brought here so that you can take up the opportunities.
That's the whole point. And there's a godfather somewhere who expects their share. So,
but I think we ought to have this bigger conversation there, CT, on starting from, and that's why I started by saying the ministry. There is a ministry that sets up the policy on how we manage our environment.
There is a ministry.
And this ministry is the one that even sits on the board of NEMA.
They do.
Okay? When you have all these cases going around the country, when you're talking about, pollution of our environment to such a great extent, then you ought to be asking, so what is it? Why?
But Eric, the competing interest is they know what the mandate is, but the moment accumulation is also at the center of your discussion and thinking, which one do you think is going to take precedence?
I want to ask the question that you ask about the police. Is NEMA adequately resourced to deal with this?
A valid enough question. I don't know.
Like, do they have... So, yeah, we expect them to be the ones who are policing. So, go around, do random checks.
Yes.
And then take action.
Yes.
How many officers does NEMA have? Right?
Yes.
Are they able to go around and actually do this, conduct this? Are they able... Are they adequately resourced?
They work in partnership with other agencies, but again, how often do we even hear of success stories of NEMA? Why am I saying this? Same story that we've been saying earlier on. Do they tell us of the success stories? Do they tell us of things that they have done? Do they tell us of things they have prevented? Okay.
Do we see the marketing? Like now, today there's a story I've seen in one of the papers about KEBS. And KEBS recalling some batches of maize flour from the market.
Yes.
Various manufacturers involved, various brands involved, and they have said, in our random checks in the market, we have established that there are some that have not met the standard, and we said recall all of them. You see, and this is not the first time, especially with maize flour.
Yes, but do you hear the same of
NEMA?
No, we don't.
That they stopped a construction somewhere, that they ordered the shutting down of a factory until things are done, that they...
No, they order it when there are complaints.
Yes.
And then you're also told by the same people, but they shut it for a day and the factory is
when
back
there's
in operation
political
again.
pressure.
Yes.
Shut it for a day and then say, let's conduct an audit and see how well you are doing it, and then open it up again.
Yes.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up. So in the next hour, we talk about politics and how to have civil campaigns in Kenya as we go into the next general election. Civility in Kenya's campaigns. We'll have a guest in the studio joining us. His name is Dr. Reuben West. He's conducting a civility election campaign. We'll seek to understand what exactly he means as we go into that conversation. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The One Kenya Alliance principles stormed President Uhuru Kenyatta's central backyard with a promise to change the country's economic fortunes if they win the presidency next year. The Okoh chiefs maintain that they will fight corruption ruthlessly and protect public resources from massive plunder to revive the economy, create jobs and give Kenyans a decent living. This was the first time they pitched camp in the president's staff as they intensify their onslaught to turn the tables on Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga. Now, the race for the Wanjiru gubernatorial seat continues to attract interest among new individuals all interested to vie for the seat. The Faidal Sultanate, the Supreme Governing Council for the Faidal sub-clan, has nominated Hassan Welie to run for the seat in the 2022 general elections.
We settled on our brother Hassan Welie Khalid to be the flag bearer of the family.
With a deep sense of duty and resolve, I accept the nomination by the Sultan and his team and our people. I accept it with full and grateful heart with only one obligation. That is the obligation of providing good leadership to our community and to the people of Wajir.
The decision was arrived at after weeks of deliberations and consultations. Now, as the process of registering new voters is expected to end tomorrow, Kapenguria MP Samuel Moroto has urged the youth to turn out in large numbers to register as voters. Speaking in West Pokot County, led by Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Kitale, Maurice Crawley, Moroto said it was only through the registration that residents would have the opportunity to elect the leaders they want. Bishop Maurice Crawley also condemned cattle rustling activities in the region, saying that as the church they will install efforts that will discourage the vice and have it addressed. Now, Nairobi's first level 5 hospital will finally open its doors to patients this week. Nairobi Metropolitan Services says that the 400 million 5-story Korogosho Mathari Hospital is expected to reduce the patient load at Mama Lucy Hospital, which serves more than 2.1 million people in Eastlands area. NMS Director General Mohamed Badi last week told the Senate Health Committee that it is expected President Uhuru Kenyatta will commission the hospital this week. We lost 5 people to COVID-19 in data released by the Health Ministry. The ministry says the latest COVID-related fatalities are all let deaths reported after conducting facility audit records in the months of September and October. The new figures now raises the cumulative deaths resulting from the disease to 5,281. While delivering his daily update on the COVID situation in the country, Kagwe further indicated that 17 people tested positive for the disease from a sample size of 3,014 tested in the last 24 hours. This as we continue to urge you to continue observing COVID-19 protocols so that together we may be able to win the fight against COVID-19. Sudanese protesters have barricaded roads in capital Khartoum as part of the ongoing demonstrations against a military coup. 3 people were killed over the weekend when security forces fired shots and tear gas to disperse protesters in the nearby city of Omdurman. The Interior Ministry denied the live rounds had been fired. The army seized power, detaining Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and other civilian leaders. And Tigrayan forces have said that they've seized another strategic town in Ethiopia's Amhara region. The fighters captured Kombolcha and its airport, according to Getachew Reda, a spokesperson for the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The capture of Kombolcha would be a strategic gain for the Tigrayan fighters against the Ethiopian military and its allies who are trying to dislodge the Tigrayans from the Amhara region. The large town is about 380 kilometers from the capital Addis Ababa and is the farthest south in Amhara that the TPLF has reached since pushing into the region in July. It suggested that TPLF was heading closer to the Ethiopian capital. And up to 3,000 migrants and refugees have spent the past month camped out of the streets of Libya capital Tripoli outside a community center run by the United Nations. Many are desperate for help after fleeing overcrowded detention centers during one mass escape last month. 6 migrants were killed when guards opened fire. To sports, and Abdallah Hassan hit a first half brace to set Bandari FC en route to a 3-0 victory over AFC Talanta during an FKF Premier League clash at the Mbaraki grounds in Mombasa. William Wadri got the third late on for the host, who who were far superior on the day in front of a sizable crowd that included the Harambee Stars head coach Engin Firat. Victory steered Bandari into top of the league standings on 12 points, topping Kakamega Homeboys and Gor Mahia FC only on goal difference, although the duo has played a match less. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so that situation heading towards town around South B and the CID training school heading towards town from Eka Hotel is still a situation. And this is because the contractor has narrowed down and created a new diversion there as the construction for the expressway is ongoing. Langata Road coming towards town is very busy. It goes almost to past Langata Police Station Junction all the way to Timol. That road is very, very busy today. It's a nightmare. Thika Road as well. It's a Monday morning. It's the first day of November. It's busy. Coming all the way to the Pangani and Pangani Drift. It's very, very, very busy as well. Westlands heading into town. It's busy along the Museum Hill interchange, coming into University Way, coming into Kenyatta Avenue roundabout. Jogoo Road heading towards town is busy as you approach the City Stadium roundabout, and then Landis Road is busy as you get in towards town. Other parts of the country of the city that are looking very, very busy this morning include areas around Donholm, areas of the Eastern Bypass heading out, Eastern Bypass also coming towards the Mombasa Road interchange. Very busy both sides. This is the areas around Utawala. If there's anything that we need to report about, tag us on Twitter, SpiceFMKE.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound.
It's 8 minutes after 8 on this first day of November 2021. Welcome to November. It's a happy Monday as well. Kenya's biggest conversation gets into the third hour. In the room with you this morning is Eric Latiff and CT Muga. Our colleague Ndu Okoh is away today, but CT is here with the day's proverb from Taita.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Yes. Have you climbed on the roof with sandals on?
It's so close to Swahili.
But Bantu languages are close to Kiswahili. Because, yes, the Arabic language is infused in the Swahili language significantly, but the predominant language is Bantu. So, remember when we're looking at the Digo Proverbs, one might as well have been speaking Kiswahili. Yes. If you were to look at Griama Proverbs, I'm sure we will find something similar.
Yep.
If you were to bring in some of the Bantu communities within, say, the central part of Kenya, again, you'll find similarities.
Viratu, Wakwea, Guni. Okay. Did you give us the English version of it?
Let me repeat it.
Please.
For the sake of those whose hearing is a little faulty this morning.
It's November, man.
Have you climbed on the roof with your sandals on? That's the English translation.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Welcome to the conversation to our audience on KTN Home who join us for the next 1 hour. We are live on SpiceFM. We live stream the show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on SpiceFM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, And our website is www.spicefm.co.ke. Let's talk for the next hour now about conducting some civil campaigns, all right? So we are in that campaign silly season, as we call it in this country, where it's about people coming, making promises, people coming and also trying to woo people to their side, others trying to force people to their side, and others trying to incite people so that you can be influenced to join their side. World Civility Ambassador, that's how he's been described. He's also the coordinator of a campaign called the Civility for Kenya campaign. Dr. Reuben West joins us in the studio. Dr. West, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So let's first of all understand who's Dr. Reuben West.
Sure. I'm from the United States. I live in the around Chicago area. I'm originally from the Kansas area. I'm a World Civility Ambassador. In 2019, I was also appointed Universal Peace Ambassador. I Changed Nations dubbed me in 2019 as the USA Civility Icon. Mm-hmm. And so, even when I got all of these titles, I kind of wondered, what did all these titles mean? What did they mean? And, sometimes you have a calling for something and sometimes something calls you. And I realized that it's not what I was called, but really what I was called to do. And that is this civility work. I started working with World Civility Ambassador and World Civility Leader Dr. Clyde Rivers out of Victorville, California, through an organization called I Changed Nations. And they teach diplomacy, they teach civility work. And as I got a chance to travel with them to different countries, Guyana, Burundi, Uganda, I realized that there was a calling for me to do this work. And so I'm excited to be here and participate in these activities.
Let's take some steps back.
Yes, sir.
All right. So who was Dr. West before you became all these things that you are now?
Sure. So I worked in surgery for 29 years. I have a martial arts school. Next year will be my 25th year in the martial arts. I didn't teach it because I wanted to be a professional fighter.
Martial arts is like what?
Karate, judo, yeah.
Right.
I did it because I always had a passion for impacting people, and it's specifically youth. And if you don't give them something that they like, you can't influence them. So I realized martial arts would give me the avenue to bring them in, get them involved with something, but at the same time infuse certain principles that I felt would be able to guide their life. So this is the 25th year coming up next year. It will be our 25th anniversary of my martial arts school. It's one of the things I'm passionate about and I love to do. But I'm a father. I have 3 children. My 2 oldest children have already graduated college, and my daughter's a nurse, ICU nurse. My son works for Pepsi Company. He's in the leadership management team there. And then my youngest son, Robinson, he turns 10 next week. He turns 10 on the 9th of November, so a little bit more than a week. And so I brought him to Kenya several times. I had an event here in Nairobi in 2019. He was 7 at the time. He was one of the speakers. And then I had one in July of this year, and he came back again and spoke again. And the reason I did that was to acclimate him, to get him used to being in front of the crowd, to get him used to sharing his thoughts and his voice. And here's the funny thing. Every day when I'm there and I wake my son up, I do it like this. I'll get in his ear and I'll say, "You're full of greatness and possibility. You're full of greatness and possibility. You're full of greatness and possibility." That's how I wake him up. And then I'll have him stand in front of the mirror and say, "I'm full of greatness and possibility." Now it's not me saying it to him, it's him saying it to himself. And the reason I do that is because most of the time we focus on behavior. Make a child do this, make them do this. I don't necessarily focus on behavior, I focus on belief, because belief creates behavior. They asked me, "Dr. West, would you come to Chicago and talk to the young men about pulling their pants up? Because they're sagging." That's what we call it in the U.S., they're sagging. And I said, no, I won't come and talk to them about pulling their pants up. But I will come and talk to them about pulling their dreams up. And when they pull their dreams up, their pants will come up automatically because their dress is a reflection of their dreams. So I've always been passionate about inspiring the youth, taking people to the next level, working with individuals and organizations. I also did corporate training and things like that.
Diplomacy I've heard of, civility not so much.
Exactly.
What is civility?
Civility is the gateway to peace. So civility is a way of treatment. It's treating people the way you want to be treated. It's not doing something to others that you would find hurtful if done to you. And so many times we talk about peace. I was just at an event that was sponsored by the NCIC, I think it is, the National Cohesion an integration commission, but it was for all of the religious leaders. So there was religious leaders from all their backgrounds, and they were all there, and they were excited to be there, and they were talking about peace. How can we maintain peace during the campaign season? And I listened, and here's what I want to tell everybody, that peace is an end result. See, peace is a destination, but civility is the transportation to get to peace. Because what incites people is in civil treatment. When they talk in civil ways about their opponent, when they try and ignite people and excite people to take violent action or weaponize them, that's incivility. And so when we're saying we want peace, understand that peace is the end result of treating people in a civil way.
If you were to go back, say, for instance, into the work you've been doing in your neck of the woods, tell us about some success stories, situations where you brought in the civility narrative, the civility work, what the situation was like, and after a period of time, whatever period that was, what became of them and what success in civility actually looks like.
Fantastic. So I can talk about the organization as a whole, but I really want to talk about my experience. If you remember in the U.S., and not that you have to, but there was an incident where in Minnesota, a young man was killed, George Floyd, because a police officer kneeled on his neck. The police officer was subsequently found guilty of some criminal charges and was sentenced to, I think, 20 plus years. But what that did is that sparked violence around the world, and really violence in our country. And the reason is there was a few law enforcement officers that act in an uncivil way, and then what happens is the people judge the whole law enforcement community. Now, at the same time, there was a few protesters that acted in an uncivil way, and the people judged the whole protest in a certain way. And it wasn't all the law enforcement, and it wasn't all the protesters. But in my local area in Bloomington, Illinois, where I live, they had some marches, some protests, people exercising their right to be out. And so I decided to go participate. And the reason I wanted to participate is because you always have agitators in the crowd. The agitators are designed to get people to do something temporarily foolish that has a permanent consequence. And so that not only happens there, it happens everywhere. And that's why I want people to be careful when people are trying to incite them to go do something, because you could go do it, but you can suffer the consequence and they don't. And so what I wanted to do was be a part of the conversation. I wanted to be a part of the marches. I wanted to be a part of the community when they talked about these issues. And so I signed up to do that. I participated in the marches. Because I talked about, here's what we should be saying, here's the narrative we should be bringing, let's attack the problem, not the person. So even in politics, what happens a lot of times is civility is attacking the problem, because we have to deal with the problems. Incivility is attacking the person. Now it's a personal attack. See, there's a difference between disrespect and disgrace, right? We disrespect somebody, they disgrace themselves. If you do bad acts, there's nothing I can do for you. The truth speaks for itself. But if I disrespect you, that doesn't look on you, that looks on me. People start to look, why does he talk like that? Why does he act like that? And unfortunately, when we have different debates and things like that and the politicians come together, when they don't use civility, but they rather focus on incivility, we end up talking about their behavior and not their policies. We talk about how they put this person down or what they said, but we're not talking about the policies. So what I wanted to do was keep everybody focused on the narrative, which was civil treatment, the narrative, which was giving people opportunity to share their voice. And the narrative I wanted to bring was the ability to listen. Churchill said it takes courage to stand up and speak, but it also takes courage to sit down and listen. And so a lot of times when we get in these situations where people are ignited or excited, everybody wants to talk, nobody wants to listen. So I wanted to encourage the listening. I wanted to encourage everybody participating in the conversation, but I wanted to encourage them to do it civilly. We were successful in that when we did the marches, when we did the rallies. There was a couple of incidents that broke out during the march, and fortunately I was right there and could diffuse that situation and keep us moving in the right direction. I think there was a police window that got broke out, but here's the good news. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was injured. All the narratives went off without a hitch, and we really got past the issue. And what was the real issue? Interesting enough, the issue wasn't our city's issue. We didn't have a problem in our city, but because it spilled over and because the attitude reflects leadership, when you have the leaders speaking in a certain way, it ignites and incites the people in a certain way. And so I had to work and say, hey, really, this is not our issue. We don't have this big divisive issue. And what happened there seems to be an isolated incident, but because it gets so much publicity, it seems like it's the way it is. So I had people from around the world where I've traveled call me, Dr. West, are you safe? I mean, we see there's riots all over the U.S. Yeah, that wasn't true. It wasn't riots all over the U.S., but the media made it look like it was. It was just in a few isolated areas, and I let them know I was safe.
The when you talk about the consequences
Mm-hmm.
of civility, as you put it, yes, it makes sense. But against the backdrop of a history
Mhm.
of discrimination, systemic discrimination against people of color, specifically in the country that you come from,
Mhm.
how then do you teach people to actually be civil and to respond to something which is not historical but current?
I think you teach them by integrating them. See, one of the things that we had to do was bring the conversation to the communities. Most of the time, people were speaking from a perspective that they've never experienced for themselves. Watch this. These people are this way. This community is this way. The police are this way. Have you had a run-in with them? No, but I know.
No, but they are.
Have you met these people? No, but I know. So they're not really having an authentic relationship with their conversation. It's from someone else's knowledge or something they saw on TV or something they heard. And so what you do is you get them to sit down and understand that there's more that we have in common than we have different. And they have to understand that there are people who benefit from us not connecting. There's people who benefit from us not coming together. And so here's what happens in a political movement when that happens. Politicians win, but the people lose. You see, they win the election, but now we don't like our neighbor. We don't like the neighboring tribe because we were used for their benefit. And unfortunately, even in the U.S., some politicians feel like their title makes them entitled. Right? Their title makes them entitled.
Yep.
So I got the title now, but I'm not working for the people. I'm working for myself. I got the title now, and maybe all the people won't generate wealth or build wealth, but guess what? I will. And so civility is, again, treating people the way you want to be treated, but also holding them to a standard. See, I was talking with some individuals, and they said, you know what? I don't want to vote again. I'm like, what? I don't want to vote again because when we vote, nothing happens. They promise us this, it doesn't happen, and things like that. And I believe them. I think that can happen anywhere in the world. But my answer was, first of all, civility is doing what you said you were going to do. And then the minute you know you can't do it, you have to let the people know. Right? So if you're 2 years in and you said you're going to build this road or build this school or put this water in and for any reason it's not happening, you have a responsibility to go back to the people that you talk to and say, hey, here's the problem I'm having. Here's the trouble I'm running into. Here's how I need you to help me accomplish this mission. That's a reason. We all understand reasons. But if you come back 4 years or 5 years later and say, vote for me again, it didn't get done and here's why, that's an excuse. We're not trying to hear an excuse at the end of the election cycle to vote again, but we will accept some reasons where we can actively participate. So I think what we have to do is say there's a consequence for not doing what we say we're going to do, but the consequence shouldn't be placed on the people. In other words, saying, I'm not going to vote. I think you should vote. You maybe should just vote for someone else that's going to do what they say they're going to do. People don't give you what you don't demand, what you don't ask for. You don't walk into a restaurant and they just bring you some food out. You have to order off the menu. And if you don't put civility on the menu, they're not going to serve it up. So the people decide how they're going to be talked to, how they're going to be communicated to. And if we don't make that decision, then they won't serve it.
Of the countries you visited on this continent, where have you felt that there is a great need or a greater need to actually imbue in the people and institutions that you work with this idea, this thinking about civility?
Well, that's a great question, but I don't think it's limited to this continent. I think civility is necessary on every continent, and I would use my own country as a kind of a example. You see, for the first time in a long time, we had violence in the transition of power. We usually have a peaceful transition of power, and we try to hold ourselves as the standard. This is how you transition the power. But I think sometimes we get a little ego invested as American citizens, that we think everything's right and we don't have to work on it. What we did was we allowed incivility to come into the campaigns. Look at the way they talk to each other. Remember I said civility is attacking the problem but not attacking the person. Civility is making a point without making an enemy. And there was some in the past great examples of that. When Senator John McCain was running against Barack Obama for president, and the lady said, "Oh, he's terrible, he's a Muslim, he's this, he's that."
He said,
and he said, no, he's not. No, he's a decent, hardworking American who I happen to disagree with. We don't have the same philosophies. So he's attacking the problems, but he's not attacking the person. And then it shut all of that down, right? But he could have fed into the flames. Now, what's funny is John McCain didn't win, but he did win in the eyes of the public. He's still quoted today. I'm quoting him right here now in Africa. We talk about his civility and the way he treated people and the way he ran a decent campaign, an honest campaign. It was fantastic. And I think those are the kind of things that we need to look out for. But in the U.S., when that didn't happen, then watch this. They incited the people, right? They said, hey, the election was stolen. The election, it was stolen. I didn't do an investigation. I let the courts do that, and they didn't come up with any evidence of it being stolen. But here's my question was, at the time, Joe Biden had no political position. How does the person with no political position steal the election? I mean, they're not over anything. They're not running anything. Like, I don't know how they do it. And how do they steal it in states that aren't democratic states? I don't know how they do it. But does it really matter? See, what's happened is we can let the people in authority become the truth, or we can let the truth be the authority. Now, when the people in the authority become the truth, then people take whatever they say as the truth. It was stolen? Okay, it was stolen. We have to do something, right? With no evidence, no facts, no research. They just believe them. And that's why it's important when you're in authority to understand that your words matter. They have consequences. And so you can't just randomly incite people for the sake of political gain. Because again, you may lose, but you may win, but the people may lose.
They may all lose. Let's take a break at this point. 27 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM. We're also live on KTN Home and live online with Dr. Reuben West. He is coordinating the Civility for Kenya campaign, talking about having civility as we have the campaigns pre, during, and post campaigns in the country. How can we get to that level? Time to take a break. We'll be back shortly on this conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
There are so many people peddling what is false, and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. They gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort.
Afande umbo yako iko na pembe. Hii ni umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so what's happening in the country? It's currently 17 degrees in Nairobi. Partly sunny day, rising to 26, and then lowering down to 16 later on in the day. Mombasa, light rains at 26, and then rising to 31. What's going to happen around the country? In Western Kenya, partly sunny at 30 in Kakamega. In Malindi, mostly sunny day at 31. Kisumu, partly sunny day at 30. Nyeri, mostly cloudy day at 26. Nakuru, partly sunny day at 27. Kampala, Uganda, mostly sunny day at 29. In Lagos, Nigeria, mostly clear skies at 31. Kinshasa, DRC, light rains at 31. Going around the world is sunny day, 9 degrees currently, but 15 degrees later in Beijing, China. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, light rains at 30. And Johannesburg, South Africa, sunny day at 28. And in London, the temperature is going to hit, where is London here? 14 degrees and clear skies. And New York is clear skies at 17.
Spice up your life.
So what's the situation on the roads this morning? Now, the main part that has been having some serious bad traffic is Langata Road today. So the traffic is still jam-packed all the way into Langata Estate past Onyonka. This is all the way beyond the southern bypass. So it comes all the way to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout into Aerodrome Road. So it's bad. Langata Road is a bad situation this morning. Let us know what's happening on this road this morning. I think it's important for us to find out what's exactly causing it. All right. As you get into town, if you're on Thika Road, Muranga Road into Globe Cinema roundabout is busy. And then it's also, of course, busy along Muthui into Pangani. It's busy. Jogoo Road into town, it's busy in Makadara, but it eases off towards the City Stadium roundabout. Beyond that, into Landis Road, it's also slightly busy. Now, there's an issue with the Eastern Bypass as well this morning. As you head towards Mihango, going towards Kangunda Road, it's very, very busy both sides. And this is the area of Mihango and Utawala. Very busy on both sides as well. In Westlands, coming in towards town, it's busy from Museum Hill Interchange coming towards town. But Westlands towards ABC Place, where they say that they've opened, it's moving slightly better today. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 minutes to 9. The conversation continues in the Situation Room. Eric Latiff, CT Muga, and Dr. Ruben West talking about the Civility for Kenya campaign and talking about defining what civility is and how then we conduct our campaigns in a civil manner. Dr. West, all the things that you're saying, they basically are pointing towards having the right value system as a people and also looking at one another and understanding who we are as a people. Now, you said you've attended some meetings that have been organized and conducted by the NCIC, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. It was actually established so that they can address some of those things that you're saying, how we can be civil with one another. But they still face challenges at local community level and at national level. When you get to the national campaigns, we have issues. At community level, we have issues. And it's all about politicians taking advantage of a known narrative that was created many years ago about that other side, those other people. So you go to some parts of the country and there's already a conversation about, but those guys are taking up our lands. Those guys are doing our jobs. This is what we've been doing as a community. And yet those people are now invading into our areas. So it's going to be lost in all those things. How do we start fighting those many narratives that have been created over generations? People are born thinking that those people are bad.
First of all, it amazes me, and I'm not talking about anyone specifically, I'm talking in general, how people can be a Kenyan on one day and then a tribesman on the next day. Like for one, one day they're talking about the country, and then the next day, when it comes into political season, now they've made a tribal statement, and I get it. What they're doing is they're using what works. That's what works. But I think we have to teach civility. You know, it's kind of like medicine. Sometimes you go to the ER, you need emergency treatment. But then there's also health and wellness. That's the ongoing treatment. That's eat right, vitamins, exercise, diet. So I think right now we better inject some civility. You know, I told you I worked in surgery for 29 years. And one of the things we would do is before we started the procedure, we would inject local anesthetic. Now, we haven't made a cut yet, but we still injected local anesthetic because what they found is that if you numb the nerves before they were cut, it helps with post-op pain. If you give a preemptive antibiotic, a prophylactic antibiotic before the surgery starts, it helps with infection after the fact. What I know is that if we can inject civility into the campaign right now, right? I want to do a positive awareness campaign. Will it eliminate it? No, antibiotic doesn't eliminate all the infection, right? The local anesthetic doesn't eliminate all the pain. It just helps with it. But we need a long-term civic education program that trains on civility. I want to tell you guys something that's interesting. In the U.S., they say our divorce rate is 50%. That's high, isn't it?
Is it 50 really?
That's what they say, 50%. Now, listen to this. But most everybody has premarital counseling. I don't know if they do that here, but before you want to get married, you go to your religious leader or whoever's going to marry you, and they give you premarital counseling. Let me tell you the problem, though. Premarital counseling cannot account for a bad choice. See, they already chose who they were going to marry. Like they've already picked the person. And now you're trying to counsel them when they're already in love. They needed the counseling before they ever started looking. Guess what? We need to be trained on civility before we ever start picking a leader so we know the things to look for. Unfortunately, we're trying to train them while they're already being talked to by these individuals. And so by creating a campaign right now, but also the civic education that trains on the standards of civility so that when election time comes, you already know what to look for. I can tell you in the U.S., there's a lot of people who mistook a life lesson for a life partner. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot of people who mistook a life lesson for a life partner. And that's what I hear people saying with the campaign. I voted for this, and I thought they were a leader, but they were a liar. Now, I'm not saying anyone's a liar. I can't say. But here's what I can say. We can judge them by the standards of civility. Do they do what they say? And then if they don't, that's your indication to choose someone different.
So how are you running this campaign in the country?
So we have, it's a positive awareness campaign. We're teaming up with some organizations right now. We're going to launch it. We're going to do a full-on launch, but we want people to join in. You made a good point. The commission is doing work, but they can't do it by themselves. They're doing work, but at the national level, at the local level, there's still issues. That's why we need to get as many people involved as possible. I know that no country is perfect. There's no way to fight the storms of a country, but we can all use the same umbrella. We can all stand under the same covering. And so our goal is to get as many people in it as possible, especially the youth. When I talk to the youth.
So how do you do this? I mean, what's the structure of this campaign?
Fantastic. So to do it, especially targeting the youth, we have to use social media. Someone said, the youth nowadays are different. They're just different. And my answer is the youth are not different. Technology is. When I was a youth, I didn't have a way to get my narrative out to the world. I could tell my friends, but there was no online. There was no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, none of those things. So I think to reach the youth, we have to find them where they're at. I was just watching a thing where they were having a summit on the youth, and they were telling what they need and what they wanted. And I was surprised that there was not one youth present. And so there's a difference between speaking to them or speaking with them. There's a difference between speaking for them or having them a part of the conversation. So my goal is to engage them in the conversation and allow them to participate as civility ambassadors for this civility movement.
Yeah. Dr. West, when you talk about civility, the training, the induction, the getting to understand, the exposure, is there a curriculum?
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, there has to be a curriculum. And one of the things I want to do is, again, we have to do what we can right now because we need emergency medicine right now. The elections are coming. But then use the curriculum and have it vetted by the scholars here. And maybe it needs to be adjusted or changed, but then have the curriculum taught in schools. I've gotten a chance to go speak to organizations here. I was brought in by MP Shaw Hospital, Lions Hospital. I spoke at the Lions Club Festival. Just different organizations. I told you I did corporate training and things like that. And so I understand the need for the narrative, the training. But I think what we have to do is infuse it into the system and help other people to understand it. Because one of the conundrums that people get into, and now let me just say in my country, I don't want to say here, but you have a lot of leaders, even at times religious leaders, that talk one way on Sunday, and then on Monday through Friday, they don't exactly practice what they preach. I'm not saying here, I'm saying in the U.S. And I still love the U.S. I'm just saying that.
Dr. West, let us say it for you. We are exactly the same.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to say it. I'm not here to tear down. I'm here to build up. But my point is, but when the kids see that,
yes.
and if their religious leader does it, or if their mother and father do it, then how could we expect the leaders of the country to do it? Because they've already seen it at home. Maybe we say this, my parents say this to me, and then they act another way. See, we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. And so you can't just say it and not deliver it. So in the end, the education that has to be put forth through civic education is critical because it has to be an ongoing process. We bring these narratives up at election time, but we don't teach math once every 4 or 5 years. We teach it ongoing. Civility has to be taught the same way.
So this curriculum you speak of, does it span a certain period of time? Is there a specific curriculum for a specific age group, a specific time? Does one graduate with a certificate and get to a diploma? Does one...
Yeah.
I mean, are the stages
exactly
in it?
What
yes.
Absolutely, there's stages. One of the great things about working with I-trained nations in the U.S. is they teach diplomacy, but they also teach civility. And they have a lot of civility practitioners. So some specialize in civility in the family, civility in religion, civility in the workplace, civility in politics. I don't try and do everything. What I do is borrow their knowledge, So I use some of their materials and say, okay, here's how we could do this. But also, it's not just bringing something in as if civility, Kenya can't manufacture its own information. What it is bringing it in and say, hey, is there anything in this that you could benefit from? Can you take anything out of this and put it in what you're doing already? Would any of this benefit you? And then how can we do it together? Here's what I know. And remember this, I don't know who it was that discovered water, but I'm sure it wasn't the fish. I'm sure it wasn't the fish, right? Right. Sometimes we have to, and what I'm saying is sometimes when we're so inundated, we don't notice what's going on right around us. So it helps when somebody injects something into our system. We're like, oh, I never thought about that, or I wasn't aware of that. So I want to help bring that injection. I'm not trying to tell them how to do it, but here's some ideas that I have, and how can we work together to do it together? The other thing is people have a way of ignoring. I brought a group of people here in July. We got in the cars, and they were scared. I mean, they were jumping and
what were they scared about?
Oh my goodness, the traffic here. We've never seen cows in the road and goats in the road, and it's just different. And they said, Dr. West, we can't believe you're not scared. And I said, I'm not scared because I've been here for a while. Believe me, number one, I don't ride in the front. I just always ride in the back because I can't even look out the window. It's too much for me. But here's what happened to me. What you keep seeing, you quit seeing. And so because I had seen it so much, I didn't notice it. The same thing happens with in-civil treatment. When you see it so much, you don't notice it as something negative. It's just the way it is. But somebody looking from the outside saying, wait a minute, why are they talking like that? Why are they inciting the people like that? Why are they treating them like that? And so sometimes that outside voice can be beneficial.
So still, what I'm not getting is how exactly this campaign is running. So I get the concept, I get the idea, and it sounds very, very good. It sounds like, yes, this is something we should be having a conversation about, and we actually do have these conversations on a regular basis. But now here comes Dr. West, and there's a civility campaign in Kenya, and there's a positive awareness campaign, and there's I Teach Nations. How do all these things translate into this campaign? How will I interact and engage with the campaign?
Sure. So first of all, they can go to the website, civilityforkenya.org, 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 and they can team up with us. We're working with other organizations, other institutions, for-profit, non-profit organizations and companies that want to help sponsor their campaign.
What kind of programs are you running?
So number one, for the Positive Awareness Campaign, we want to have billboards, we want to have social media campaigns, we want to have road shows. All of those things are necessary. Right now we're building and aligning our partnerships, and then we're going to launch the campaign together. Okay. But all of those things are needed to get the narrative out, to get as many people on board as possible. My goal is not to speak to an audience. My goal is to speak to an army. Because an audience will listen, but an army will do something. And I want an army of people that want to promote civility. I want them to use the hashtag, support the campaign, wear the T-shirts, have the conversations, participate in our meetings, be a part of the road shows, bring other friends that they know that want civility into the conversation. So it's a full-on.
And then how do they influence change? The civility during the campaigns, we see the incitement by political leaders, incitement by community leaders. How do we then attack those?
So
or
the first
react
thing,
to those?
Yeah. You have to attack the problem, not the person, but the first thing we have to do is we have to react to it. I have a civility declaration that I'm going to ask all of the leaders to sign, the candidates to sign. And it's different than a peace proclamation. Number one, sometimes when you overuse a word, it doesn't mean anything. And I think peace is kind of tired because, you have the UN peacekeeping forces that'll come into countries with their guns. Keep the peace. Peace is not kept, it's created. It's created through civility. So, and I didn't create a proclamation because a proclamation is an announcement. Like we get married, we send out a wedding announcement. Hey, we're getting married. But it's a declaration. Our whole country is based on the Declaration of Independence. You declare something, and then as long as you act in accordance to what you declared, it changes the future. So our whole wedding system is based on a 2-word declaration. Do you take this person? I do. And do you? I do. So as long as they act in accordance to what they declared, it changes the future for the positive. But when they don't, it changes it for the negative. I want them to sign this civility declaration and then act in accordance to what they declared. But then when they don't, people can see that they're not doing it, and they can hold them accountable for it, or at least they can see what kind of person that they're dealing with, that they'll say one thing and then they'll do another.
Kenyan politicians will sign those things, bring them today.
Bring even 10 of them, they'll sign
They
all
will
10.
sign.
Yeah.
They've signed them before. They've signed, declarations for peace. I pledge to conduct my campaigns in a peaceful manner, in a certain manner. I pledge that once I get elected, I will serve the people. I pledge. They do that. They get into office, the first thing they do is swear. Holding the Bible.
Or the Quran.
Or the Quran.
Sure.
They do swear.
Yeah.
So holding them to accountable now, that's the other bit.
Then do they do what they said they were going to do?
No, they don't.
Then do they ever get elected again?
Yes.
Then that's not the politician's fault. You've trained them that they don't have to be responsible to what they say. See, they don't work for you don't work for them, they work for you.
So then possibly the people who need to sign these things are the citizens.
Yeah, well, we all have jobs, but we don't go out and sweep the parking lot if it's not our job, because it's not part of our job description.
Yep.
If you don't make it a requirement for them, why would they do it? As a matter of fact, you elected them when they didn't uphold the standards, so why would they change the standard?
And that's the point I'm trying to drive at, Dr. West, that for as long as you're the one who's giving the politician something to sign, the politician is going to sign it. Now, if the citizen, the voter, has not internalized this document, as long as the voter does not feel that this document belongs to them in any way,
right,
then holding them accountable doesn't apply.
Right, and they won't do it unless they've been trained on what civility means. So to have them sign a civility document and you don't know what it means, they can still do anything because you didn't know. That's why the civic education campaign has to go on at the same time as the positive awareness campaign. These things have to be integrated. It's an integrated system, and then it has to go on continually. Even after the campaign, it has to go on continually so that we start to understand these are the standards that we have to look for. Now, I'll be the first to say that, it's nothing's perfect, and that there is no 100% guarantee. Making an effort does not guarantee success, but not making one guarantees failure. And so my goal is just to make the effort, do it in conjunction with these other organizations, continue the education after the fact, see if we can get it integrated into the school system so that people better understand it, see if we could teach it in companies where we talk about civility in employment and all of these things, because once we understand it, we can create a new narrative and create a new future for the country. But if we don't do it, we'll find ourselves here again, talking about it again.
Same thing.
And not only if we don't do it, because we'll do it. I believe in the Kenyan people. I believe in my people back home. It's not us that's doing it. We have to retrain the people what we'll accept as elected officials. And if we don't hold them to a standard, they already have one.
There is the underlying assumption that we know how to hold leaders to account for the things that they are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let me say this, CT, I don't make that assumption, but I understand that there is that. what my answer to that is, that's why we have to do the civic education.
Yes.
Because people don't know that they're liable to what they said. Like,
you see, apart from that, there is also a nascent understanding among our people that you don't really question leadership. Overtly, covertly, you don't question leadership, you accept. So, unless there's a component in this training that transforms the way people think completely, because it's in changing the way they think that we'll be able to impact on the way they behave.
Of course.
You see,
don't focus on behavior, focus on belief.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see what Eric wasn't alluding to it. He was actually saying, he was stating a fact about the situation we have in this country. Just as you speak authoritatively about your country, we can speak authoritatively about our country.
Of course.
Those who are currently in leadership, specifically political leadership, that lot lost their way a long time ago. There is very little they can ever say that they will ever keep. They are huge, big, massive on promises. They make them every other day. And it is clear they have no intention whatsoever, beyond the perfunctory indication that they are trying to.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's forgotten. And the next time they reappear, it's with new promises. It's just the norm. It isn't that we've given up. We're just stating the fact. Okay?
Yes.
Now, it isn't that Kenyans have given up. What Kenyans do, we find alternative ways of coping.
Yeah.
Since we know these fellows are going to lie to us, we figure, let them be. Let's figure out what we can do for ourselves. Now, in civility training, I would argue that Kenyans are already civil. You don't hear us insulting our leaders on a daily basis. But this civility isn't useful for us in this sense. Leaders are not held to account.
That's why I said it's campaign civility. So it's civility in every day, but also there has to be civility in the campaigns and in the leadership. So the training doesn't stop just at the people, it goes to the leadership. But I think over time, it's like they said that Kenya now has, I think, a plastic ban. They ban plastic.
Certain things.
Certain plastic items.
Yes.
But that took a new way of thinking. That took a new way of behaving. That took a new way of living. It didn't happen. Change happens over time, not overnight. And this will do the same. But we have to implement the change. We have to start the change. I do agree with you're saying 100% that the majority of Kenyans are civil. And here's what inspires me. Man, I see everyday people doing projects, everyday people who started a home for these wayward children, or everyday people who are feeding or giving back. I think that's one of the things that COVID taught us, is that we can't just turn on each other, we have to turn to each other. How can we help one another? Now, when they're inspired in such a way, we have to use that momentum, because they've gotten used to helping one another. I mean, people were in dire straits during that time, and some still are. But you see everyday citizens stepping up to help, not because they're from the same tribe or not because they're from the same religion, but because they're Kenyan. We have to use that as the model, as the standard. And then the other thing is, we have to start training them that there is an accountability that people have when they take a leadership role. They're accountable. And if we don't teach them to be accountable, then they're not going to be accountable. And I love what you said, in that a lot of people are taught not to question authority. And I think the thing we have to teach them is not to question authority unless they're being incivil, unless they're doing harm, unless they're causing problems. Because questioning it is not going against it. It's making them account for what they're doing. And if we don't do it, we're going to keep getting more of the same. That's why, like now, back in the U.S., it's like we can't let that happen again. Like, what happened? And we have civility organizations that are supposed to govern politics, but they fell asleep at the wheel because it was going on autopilot. Now we see we have to come back afresh and anew and do that emergency injection again.
Okay. So once again, how do people participate and get to take part in this?
Fantastic. They can go to www.civilityforkenya.org. That's civilityforkenya.org, civility, F-O-R, Kenya.org. And they can reach out to us. We're going to be organizing meetings. There's organizations that may want to team up with us. We'll certainly set up meetings. Companies that want to partner with us will certainly do that. But I think we'll make a good impact.
Final and very important question.
Yes,
so
sir.
Who's financing you?
It's multifunctional. There's some individual groups that are financing us. There's individuals that are financing us. There's people that have just decided to put in funds to finance us. The point is, everyone can participate. Who should want to participate? Anyone who feels like civility is a key component to what we need to help generate and deliver a peaceful campaign in post-election society.
All right. We've been having a conversation with Dr. Ruben West. He is running the Civility for Kenya campaign and saying, looking for partnerships, going to be launching this campaign shortly. We've been live on KTN Home. The conversations continue on SpiceFM, 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa, 87.9, Malindi, 97.7, Nyeri, 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nakuru is 96.0, 102.5 in Kisumu. Good morning. It's 5 minutes to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh wow.
Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 2.5 minutes to 9 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. So the whole conversation about civility and being civil and how we conduct ourselves during the campaigns, I think the biggest takeout for me in that conversation, City, is the fact that it's very, very important that we hold the leaders accountable even after the election. Because if we are all in some understanding that this is what we need to do as a people, that we need to, interview our candidates, we need to look at what they're promising. We need to look at what they hope to do. We need to look at how they pledge to maintain the peace, to maintain civility, how they pledge to make sure that when they come and promise, what they're promising is what they have looked at and seen they could deliver. And if they can't, then it's a problem.
If that lesson could be learnt and kept, then a lot of what we keep crying for and saying we need to see change would actually happen.
Yeah.
Because, as Dr. West put it, our leaders know no one is going to hold them to account. And so it's open season.
We don't even question them.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And they know we won't.
Yeah. In fact, they come laughing.
Yes, yes.
I know I had promised you this. In fact, now I'm going to make it better.
Not only that, they even talk as though they are ordinary civilians, saying, these people, and this is referring to them. Yes. That change and what this civility conversation ought to bring about, apart from it just being something, as you say correctly, that happens just before this election, it's something that should be ongoing. And the bit I liked most was that bit about including it as part of the curriculum to teach children. If you start teaching young children this at an early age, believe me, they grow up understanding and knowing it. Yes.
The ethos.
Yes.
The values, national values, inculcating national values from an early age, going all the way as children mature, as the children grow up. So you're bringing up a generation that basically has some sort of value and a strong fabric.
Yes.
It's very, very important to continue this conversation. Keep it right here for more. In the next hour, we'll open up the phone lines so you can join in our conversations on 0719 012 600 or SpiceFM KE. You can always post your comment on what you have to think about. Cartel says, repeat the website, please. And the website, yes, is civilityforkenya.org. civilityforkenya.org. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta will join world leaders in Glasgow, Scotland for a UN conference on climate change. During the first day of talks, President Kenyatta is expected to brief other leaders at the summit on Kenya's strategies to address the problem. Despite not being involved in contributing to the effects of climate change, Kenya is at the forefront in tackling it. Kenya was the first African country to pass a law on climate change in 2016, where it agreed that 90% of the electricity used should be harmless and aims to achieve 100% by 2030. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is tomorrow expected to meet with Kenyatta in a session on innovation. With just 1 day left before the month-long voter listing process comes to a close, figures from the IEBC show that the Commission will fail to hit its target by a huge margin. As of last evening, the IEBC had registered 1.14 million new voters compared to the 6 million targeted voters. IEBC commissioners have expressed disappointment after Kenyans failed to show up to be registered despite hoping that they would in huge numbers to be registered during the last week. With the numbers being low, many ask what next for Kenyans, and mostly IEBC, who have maintained that it will not extend the listing process due to tight budgets. Now, as the process of registering new voters is expected to end tomorrow, Kapenguria MP Samuel Moroto has urged the youth to turn out in large numbers to register as voters. Speaking in West Pokot County, led by Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Kitale, Maurice Crowley, Moroto said it was only through the registration that residents would have the opportunity to elect leaders they want. Bishop Crowley used the opportunity to condemn cattle rustling activities in the region, saying that as the church, they will install efforts that will discourage the vice and have it addressed. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is this week expected to launch Nairobi's first level 5 hospital. Nairobi Metropolitan Services says the hospital, which will finally open its doors to patients this week, was put up at a cost of 400 million shillings and is expected to reduce the patient load at Mama Lucy Hospital, which serves more than 2.1 million people in Eastlands area. We lost 5 people to COVID-19 in data released by the Health Ministry. The ministry says the latest COVID-related fatalities are all late deaths reported after conducting facility audit records in the months of September and October. The new figures now raise the cumulative deaths resulting from the disease to 5,281. Health CS Muthui indicated that 17 people tested positive for the disease from a sample size of 3,014 tested in the last 24 hours. Our positivity rate is now at 0.6%. From the cases, 16 are Kenyans, with only 1 being a foreigner. 9 are males while 8 are females. 49 of the 59 students who admitted to the hospital following the fire at Buruburu Girls High School have been discharged from hospital. 10 others remain admitted. According to the school principal and management at Metropolitan and Jama Hospital, most of them had injuries from jumping from the second floor and also had inhaled smoke. Officials from the Nairobi Metropolitan Services and neighboring hospitals arrived to assist in putting out the fire. Families in Kwale County seeking compensation from the Kenya Wildlife Services have a difficult time getting what's rightfully theirs because they lack national IDs. KWS officer Jacob Orale says that some families claiming compensation from the government do not have IDs. Human-wildlife conflict continue to be experienced in several parts of the country, especially now that the several parts of the country are experiencing drought. Some people have died after being attacked by the animals searching for food and water. Now, after clinching his second Stanchart Nairobi Marathon title in 3 years, Elisha Kiprop now hopes to take his career to the next level by conquering more international races. Kiprop timed 2 hours 11 minutes and 7 seconds to cut the tape in a hotly contested race in which he also improved on the 2 hours 14 minutes and 19 seconds he set when he first won the annual road race in 2018. Kiprop, who had also finished second in 2014 and sixth in 2012, reflected on the race with admiration for other marathoners. In the women's marathon, Valentine Kipketer clocked 2 hours 30 minutes and 1 second to clinch her maiden Stanchart title. Naomi Mayo finished second on 2 hours 32 minutes and 27 seconds, and Beatrice Chepto wrapped up the top 3 places in a time of 2 hours 32 minutes and 33 seconds. And Abdallah Hassan hit a first half brace to set Bandari FC en route to a 3-0 victory over FC Talanta during an FKF Premier League clash at the Mbaraki grounds in Mombasa. William Wadri got the third late on for the hosts, who were far superior on the day in front of a sizable crowd that included Harambee Stars head coach Engin Firat. Victory steered Bandari into top of the league standings on 12 points, topping Kakamega Homeboys and Gor Mahia FC only on goal difference, although the duo has played a match less. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
You know what I'm seeing people saying? People are saying that on Monday mornings, usually, Thika Road is normally ghetto. Jam-packed all the way. And that is true. From 6:30 a.m. this morning, what I'm looking at here, my goodness. Yes, it's very, very, very busy, especially around Muthui, coming into Muthui interchange, getting all the way to Pangani area. And then, as you get to Ngara towards the Globe Cinema roundabout, very, very, very busy. You know what else is ghetto today? Langata Road. For some reason, there's some serious traffic coming all the way on Langata Road up to the Timor roundabout. You know what's happening at Timor roundabout is that there's some construction there of some interchange. And then Mombasa Road from Eka Hotel going towards town into the South Sea Bridge heading towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. It's also been very, very, very busy because there's some diversions that have been created there this morning. Jogoo Road into town, usual, but it's moving as you head towards City Stadium roundabout, and then it gets busy at Landis Road. It gets busy as you get into Landis Road into Haile Selassie, but the rest of the roads are looking pretty okay. If you have anything that you need to report to us so you can let others know, SpiceFM is our Twitter handle, and 40127 is our SMS number.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound.
It's 8 after 9. How are you doing? Happy Monday, happy November. It's the first day of the 11th month of the year. And we only have a couple more days till the end of 2021. And then we'll soon be in 2022. City Muga has the day's proverb.
Yes. Wakwea guni na viratu.
Wakwea guni na viratu.
Mm-hmm.
Wakwea guni na viratu. Sema kwa Kizungu. Kwa Kimombo.
Have you climbed on the roof with your sandals on?
Have you climbed on the roof with your sandals on?
Yes.
What's your problem?
Do you not know that roofs are not to be climbed with sandals on? Or do you not know that sandals are not the best footwear to have when you want to climb on the roof.
Yes, good one. So that conversation that we've just had with Dr. Ruben West, talking about accountability throughout the electoral cycle. So many times when we focus on accountability, holding leaders to account, it's after we have put them in office, holding them to account. But how about as they're coming to seek our votes, knowing that we are going to hold them to account? How about seeking accountability when they're coming to ask for their vote, our votes?
How about a social contract? How about an understanding? Yes, you are the one who's made the promises, and we assume you've understood this is what we need. We want guarantees, and you want you to tell us how you hope to achieve them, when you want to achieve them, over which period, and the priorities that you are going to have. And we'd like it written down. And we'd like you to sign it, and we'd like you to sign it before an office of the court, and we'd like you to sign it in the presence of us and of our leaders. We want it signed.
Yes.
Something that we can legally hold you accountable for.
Bas. You know, one thing that's very important in a social contract such as that one is, first of all, starting with the voter, understanding and questioning what the candidate is promising. Because in the absence of that, there's still the risk of somebody coming with a very beautiful looking social contract and say, yes, sign it.
And yet,
there's fine print.
And not only fine print,
there's terms and conditions that you didn't look at.
Yes.
And those terms and conditions that were brought in by this person who was signing the contract, it was like, in the event there is I get into office and I realize that I can't do it, I'll not be able to deliver. And that's it.
So in essence, what you're saying, Eric, is that when we're looking at some of these matters, and you're talking about training people, perhaps one ought to consider even training people in understanding how it is you arrive at an agreement.
Yes.
And how you question the very things that are being promised, and whether they are actually genuinely viable, whether they're actually genuinely doable.
Yep.
And if they are, how can they be achieved?
Yes.
And that process that is mentioned, is it also realistic?
Exactly.
Yes.
Otherwise, somebody will come and tell you, I'm going to convert Kenya into 100% forest cover.
Yes.
In 5 years. I mean, logically, how are you going to do that?
Exactly.
I'm going to make sure that everybody, every month will be receiving some money from the government.
All right, fine. Good. How are you going to do it?
It sounds very good, and you can find people easily jumping onto that and saying, let's sign that contract with you so that you can give us the money. And then later you start asking, but you see, he promised. But you see this and the other. It was a pyramid scheme. It was a
Question
fake.
it as the promise is being made.
Yes.
And all the details that pertain to it, and anything that may be unclear ought to be clarified at that particular point.
Yes. That is pre-election accountability. As the candidate is coming to you, if they are still in office, you ask them, so those things that you're saying are the things that you should have been doing. And they're the ones that you're promising to do if I re-elect you. Why haven't you done them now? And seeking to understand all those things. If we don't get to that conversation, then we end up just getting ourselves played left, right, and center. It's a pyramid scheme. Someone came and promised you, you know what, just put in money here. I'm going to give you land. Each one is going to get 10,000 acres. There's big pieces of land in Lamu and counties. I'm going to make sure that we get the land. So if we don't question those things, we end up in problems. So let's open up the phone lines, and also you ask you to join the conversation. 0719-012-600. How do we hold our candidates accountable? This is pre-election accountability. How do we hold candidates accountable? How do we look at them and identify the one who is promising what is humanly possible and the one who is coming to promise what is impossible within the short period of time that they want to be in office? 0719-012-600. And the importance of this as well. Because you see, there's some times when like you said, politicians have mastered the game.
They have.
They have understood that this is what you want. So they come and they immediately join you in the bandwagon and they say, these people have not done. These people are not delivering. These people are not doing. And you give them the opportunity to go and do it, and they're not doing it. They end up getting played. And they come back to us and like, oh, you know, you have not delivered, you have not done this and the other, you have not been able to do this and the other. Where have you been? So 0719-012-600, call us and let's hear from you. Dennis in Ahero, good morning.
Yeah, City, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I would like to contribute to today's matter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, majority of politicians are very cunning. They're cunning in the sense that whatever they are saying, about 20% is realized. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. When they are making their political statements, they always talk without any reference. There is no any reference that can be made because none of them normally provide agendas. None of them provide what is required exactly. For example, if maybe they want to construct classrooms or any other thing, they are not put on writing.
Yeah.
So when the time comes when accountability is supposed to be established, you'll find that there is nothing to hold on hand. You know, something which is written, you can make reference.
Yes.
Yeah, so what I always believe on is that maybe it's not always very easy for politicians to be held accountable.
So, Dennis,
yeah.
Now we are talking about now holding them accountable at this point when they are coming to seek our votes. What's the best way? How do we hold them accountable at this point? How do we interrogate what they are promising?
Okay, it's a little bit tricky. Because, you know, you can't hold somebody who has not attained the office accountable. They will only tell you that, okay, you know, myself, I'm in a position to provide this and that. But because, you know, it's not yet in the office, it's very tricky, very tricky.
But by the way, Dennis, actually you can, and I'll tell you why you can. Huh? As somebody is making promises, you hold them accountable by asking them to tell you in great detail how it is they hope to achieve them. And you interrogate what they tell you. The details they give you, that's what you interrogate. Because somebody can say, as Eric was saying, I'll give everybody 10,000 shillings. You have to ask, okay, how do you plan to give that money? And where are you going to get the money that you're going to give to people?
Do you know what normally happens?
Tell me.
These people are very funny. They will tell you that they are going to get some money from abroad. And that abroad, you know, when you are told abroad, how can you know exactly where he's going to get that money?
That's why you
because
keep asking.
They are so much because they are so much interested in the seat. They will say anything. They will tell you. They will convince you. I'm very much sure about that. But the realization normally comes very difficult.
Okay.
That
Dennis,
is what I can say.
Thank you for your call this morning, Dennis. Happy November.
Oh, thank you.
Joseph in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, Spice.
Morning to you, Joseph.
Morning.
Today you have the light conversation we should have at this moment. But now the big question is, who is listening to you?
You are.
The number, yes, I am. But I have one vote. The other people, I will not say I'm civilized, but maybe I'm close to that. I'm reasoning like you are reasoning. But in 40 million, you realize that 3 million are listening. And they want to do that. But the votes are 40 million people. So you see, like, for instance, there was this time that we had Sonko and Peter Kenneth. You see, people looked at who can, you know, nani anaangushanga ukuta ya shule, nani anafanyanga sijui nini, nani anapeaga, you know. But, you know, they never take time to see what Peter Kenneth has done when he was an MP and think what he can do as a governor. But if they listened to you back then, maybe things would have been different. So it's a good conversation. But again, who is listening? Yes, I am. How many are we?
Actually,
and how many voters?
But by the way, in this matter, you know the numbers that count, it's not 10, it's just 1. You talked about 40 million. Yeah. Without you, that one, you have 39,999,999. But we add you, you make it 40. So you never start with 10, you start with the 1. And so long as you're the 1, you're good.
I am good.
Because you,
and
Joseph,
personally,
will also have conversations in your circles.
Yes.
So if you are having conversations in your circles, let's just look at the multiply effect of that.
I will tell you personally, when we were doing election when it was between Sonko and Peter Kenneth that way, there is a chama I am and we are 104 guys. Do you know? I think 90 or 99% of us voted for Peter Kenneth. But he couldn't go through. Because there is another bigger crowd elsewhere. Listen to something else. You know, even journalists are not the same.
Yep.
You are sitting in the studio, reasoning the way you are reasoning. There's another studio somewhere, reasoning another way.
Yeah.
Which probably have a bigger audience. That is the problem. So I don't know if we have to start with the journalists, put them somewhere.
We always have to start somewhere, Joseph.
Yes.
We always have to start somewhere.
The issue is the audience.
The numbers.
That is listening to the right information.
Yes. It always begins somewhere. It started somewhere in some home, somebody's home or somebody's boardroom. It went out onto the streets and we changed Section 2A of the Constitution.
Sure.
It started somewhere.
The very same way that we are convinced by the politician with the 500, there's those 200 bobs I hear they are given out.
Yes.
Sorry to say, even some journalists you realize, given 500,000, he will talk what a certain particular politician wants.
Change the narrative.
We are just, I don't know.
Wait.
I don't know. There was another time I called you guys and I said, we need to stand from nursery, changing people from nursery. We got a problem. In our veins, in our DNA, there is a problem.
Don't despair, Joseph. Thank you for calling.
All right.
0719-012-600. So during this time as we are going into campaigns, as we are in campaigns, and candidates are coming to us left, right, and center. Somebody wants to be your next MCA. Somebody wants to be your next member of parliament or senator or woman rep or governor or president. What is it that we should be demanding of them? How should we be vetting their promises so that we can say that post-election, what they promised and we understood, and that's the basis upon which we voted for them, and therefore we can go back and question them. Because I get a sense that in many times, there is that lack of understanding or agreement between the voter and the candidate on why I voted for you. Candidate believes you voted for me because I gave you money. Voter believes I voted for you because I wanted you to go and work. And there's a whole disagreement on that. 0719-012-600. That's the number we'd like you to call in this morning and contribute to the conversation. Or SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. We were having a conversation with Dr. Ruben West talking about the civility for Kenya during this campaign. And this is where we are taking this from. What is it that we need to do?
You know, the uncivility that we see in our politics is actually engineered.
It is,
It is engineered.
By who?
By the politicians. And they find willing takers. Because one, part of our culture has been that our politics is incomplete without goons. So somewhere along the line, and the goons tend to be young people.
Yes.
Young people who are hired to cause chaos, to shout people down, to throw stones, to disrupt meetings, but they're paid to do that.
Yes.
Anyone who has actually been involved in a voting process will tell you that one of the most peaceful days in this country is on voting day. It is the most pleasant, peaceful. Whatever reason you want to give for it.
Yes.
People chat, people even discuss the various differences that they have when they're queuing. And people are willing to queue for long hours.
Yes.
Up to that point, we are the most civil of people. And we do very well when you're waiting for the results. And then they're announced. Then the incivility begins.
Things just go haywire.
Yes. And they just don't. Somebody's going to say they're spontaneous. I don't think so.
It's engineered.
I don't think so. I most certainly, definitely do not think so. It's something that some people plan, it's something that they set in motion. Yes.
Okay. Let's hear from Charles, who's calling in Nairobi. Charles, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
Yes. Getting on with you guys on the debate, and I think it is very possible to hold our politicians accountable. What I see in mind is that let's take it down to the very niche of where the voter is. So we begin at it probably from the NCA level. I believe all of those places have a professional. So whenever they're going for their campaigns, we organize what quote unquote we call a baraza or a public baraza.
Yeah.
Then this candidate makes makes a promise on what he's going to do, how he's going to do it. That is documented and written down, and he agrees with it. A similar candidate does the same. Then whoever wins, because the constituents doesn't change, they're the same people, the same locality. For if I win that, I had made promises and these were documented and it is signed before the people. Then now, instead of saying that we will fire you, there's a provision for it. We can only recall you back because there's provision for that in law.
Yeah.
Then we do that for the NCA. We do that for the MP. Then now come the next general election. This is after 2021 we have the next one.
After
then now we
2022
scale
we have
that.
2027.
Yes, so in 2027 we scale that up to the Senate and the governor. Because right now for me it doesn't matter as much who will be the president, because each and every county, each and every constituency is given a percentage of the national cake.
Yep.
So it is up to the constituents to decide that this is the best candidate for us, and we forget about the major political party, because the party won't help you as much. It is the person you put in office.
Yeah.
That is my 2 cents.
Good 2 cents, Charles. Thank you very much. I hear you in traffic. Where are you?
I'm actually parked along Lusaka Road.
Okay.
Yes.
So Lusaka Road, where are you heading towards?
I'm heading towards Ngong Road.
How's it been so far?
Not so bad. I avoid Mombasa Road, so I use Enterprise Lusaka Lower Hill Road into Ngong Road.
You're the one who knows how to maneuver.
It's a skill.
All right. Thank you very much, Charles.
You're welcome.
Good day. Amos in Nairobi. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning to you.
Now, my name is Amos. Just to contribute on the debate.
Yes, go ahead.
I think where the problem is always the Kenyans, not even the leaders. Because most of the time, from my small experience, I don't know whether Kenyans like being lied to, because you come up with 2 candidates. One will tell you the reality that this road, I'll not be able to maybe tarmac it, but I'll do the maintenance, maybe put a maram and the rest. And another one come with a straight line. That this road, if you vote me in, then I'll ensure that it is tarmac up to the end. Something is not realistic. Now, when you compare these 2 candidates, definitely the one who has come with the proposal of the tarmac will carry the day.
Yes.
Not knowing or not giving how he'll be able to get the resources to make it tarmac. So most of the time, Kenyans like being lied to.
So it starts with that. And, what I'm hearing you saying, Amos, is basically that the voter does not have, that's what I was calling the other time, political literacy.
Yes.
That you're not able to connect the job that the person is applying, the job description, and what they're able to do.
Of course, yes.
So how do we
That is the truth.
How do we surmount this challenge?
I think most of the time first we need to make Kenya the Kenyans, because most of the voters, most of them are not they're not literate. They're illiterate, and I don't know whether it is possible for us to make them. In fact, assuming the MCA is coming, and now the MCA will tell you that I will make this road to be tarmacked, but at the same time, it's not even under the national government. Oh, the road is under the county. Is under the national government, not under the county.
Yes.
Which makes it impossible for him or her to tarmac it.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether we need to take too much time first to look to look at things, the reality, the way they're supposed to be, so that if you come and tell me I will do for you this thing, or I will deliver this promise, and then tell me how. Right now, you look at the debate which is going on. We have all these suggestions like the social welfare, the 6,000. We have the bottom up, and many which are coming. Now, these people they don't have money. Instead, they'll be using our money. So someone will come and tell you very big promises, but then they're not telling you how this money they'll get this money.
Yeah.
So because they have the sweetest promise, we'll be deceived, and then we'll fall in for that promise. Now, when they get in, this is now where the loans come in. We have things like the increase of taxes now will come in for them to finance the promises, which sometimes they might not even finance all of them.
Yes.
And then after 5 years, they come back again. Nobody will talk about the earlier promises which were made. They again come up, they go and repackage it in another sweetest way. Because they know for you to win a Kenyan voter, you just come with the best line. And then everybody, all the masses will follow you.
That's true.
So we blame them, but they are part of us. So I don't know whether I'll be wrong to say that almost all Kenyans are liars. I don't know whether...
So that's where the problem is. It's like what Dr. West was saying. You're taking people through marriage counseling, but the problem, the mistake was made at the choice.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Amos.
Welcome.
It's 9:30. Let's take this quick break. Take a look at the traffic and the weather. Good morning. We want to hear from you as well. 0719 012 600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has anybody that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice. Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Okay, so it's a partly cloudy day today in Nairobi, and the temperatures are going to rise to 26 degrees. In Mombasa, light rains at 31. Nakuru, partly sunny at 27. Nyeri, mostly cloudy day at 26. Malindi, light rains at 31. Kisumu, 30, sunny day. In Western Kenya, Kakamega, sunny day at 24. And sunny day at 30 in Lurambi. Let's look at Kampala, Uganda, mostly sunny day at 29. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, light rains at 28. Johannesburg, South Africa, 19 degrees. Sunny days at 28. In Kinshasa, DRC, mostly cloudy day at 32. In Lagos, Nigeria, light rains at 31. In London, UK, clear skies at 14. In New York, clear skies at 17. In we haven't done Johannesburg, all right? Yes. So now we're left with Beijing, China at 15 degrees and a sunny day today. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Okay, it's getting better and better on Langata Road. It was bad this morning. It was really bad. Now the jam is from around the Nairobi Dam Estate going towards the T-Mall interchange. That's where the traffic is. Mombasa Road, this construction of the expressway has led to the narrowing down of the section of the road at South Sea, right opposite Capital Centre and on the side of the CID training school. So traffic towards town is quite busy around there this morning. Thika Road coming to town was very, very busy. It was beginning all the way from Ngomba Estate coming towards town. But now it's moving. It's at Muthui. So Muthui coming to the interchange is still very, very, very busy. But it's moving thereafter and coming into the Muranga Road and Globe Cinema roundabout. And then you have issues at the museum interchange coming towards University roundabout. That is very busy from Wangai Mathari Road coming into the museum interchange, coming towards the University roundabout. It's very busy. Exercise some patience. Anything that you think we need to let people know, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, 40127 is our SMS number.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes to 10. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719012600. We are talking about holding candidates accountable. As they come to us now with all these promises from MCA coming to say, and I like the way Amos was saying. So an MCA comes and tells you that they're going to make sure that a major road that is a national trunk is repaired or upgraded, or a major bypass is going to be done. This is an MCA. This is a national road. Really, it will take a lot of effort for them to get that, to influence that to happen. Just getting to understand that. So what is the role of MCA? What can MCA do? What can MCA not do? What can MP do? What can MP not do? When we start complaining about, we don't have hospitals here, and then you're blaming your MP, are you blaming the right person? Are you questioning the right person? When you see you don't have schools, and then you're asking your governor about schools, are we asking the right person about the right job? So it goes back to the people. To the voter.
Eric, think about it. Just think about it for a single second and ask yourself, the ordinary voter in this country, what sort of person is this person? This is a person who struggles to live on a daily basis. Not on a weekly basis, daily basis. That's the ordinary Kenyan.
Yes.
Right? Now, what would the mindset of such a person when confronted with a politician who represents everything that they're not? Big car, entourage of many people, promises. You'll even forget that this is a native of the very place that you come from. It won't occur to you that perhaps some of the problems that you have are because of him or the people who preceded him or her. No. There is a certain degree of magic thinking that somebody who has suffered immensely has. It is one of those interesting things that gives them a little hope that perhaps something will work out. I'm calling it magic thinking because there is hope, anticipation that something good will happen. But then we would like to believe even much more so this one thing that we think will change our lives. There's this need to believe that it will happen. Now, this need to believe is something that can be exploited. What you do is you feed into it. you cannot promise to even ensure that a classroom is built, and yet you want to promise that you are going to have a road built. Unless you're building a classroom with your own money. That difference is something that people will not make. But then, remember, we don't like to question our leaders. We don't like to cast aspersion on our leaders. So, even when it is a blatant lie, you feel, perhaps you start looking for reasons why this lie might actually be true. Yes, you are the one who starts looking for it. And having found it, you will not allow someone else to confound you, or to confound it, or to alter, or to offer an alternative view. You will not.
You know, you're saying some profound things here. So, number one, what sort of person is this ordinary voter?
Yes.
It is somebody who is living hand to mouth on a daily basis.
Daily.
Undergoing immense challenges.
Daily.
But also, in the Republic of Kenya, this is somebody who has some level of education.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So they have some sort of numeracy and literacy. They understand.
They do understand
They
many
can
things.
tell oranges from bananas.
They can.
Right? Now, if we say that, I want to stand back and say, despite the fact that this person is suffering on a daily basis, their mental capacity has not been impaired.
No, it's not diminished.
And their capacity to think and judge is still not diminished.
That may be diminished because of the poverty and the suffering. But in terms of the actual capacity, as you correctly put it, the capacity is there. The leaning is what may be skewed. But the capacity, in fact, it might even be heightened.
And that's I'm bringing it to the point that it's all along, even if this person was wealthy
Yes.
and well-to-do,
Yes.
and they're not focusing on a day-to-day, for as long as they did not understand the politics, for as long as they did not understand, so we have 6 positions, and this is what these 6 positions are. This is the expectation from each of these 6 positions. It doesn't matter whether this person is very well-to-do or the person is living on a hand-to-mouth. The thinking of that ordinary owner-occupier in Karen and the thinking of the rent occupier in neighborhoods of Karen is the same.
Yes.
It starts from that lack of understanding, lack of knowledge.
Ignorance is ignorance.
It is ignorance.
Yes.
You don't know, so you know there's a governor, you don't really think, what should a governor be doing here? What's the extent of a governor's responsibility
Actually,
and roles?
it is odd. The person who expects the government in whatever form to actually provide them with something is the one who is, you would think, would be the one who is better informed about what to expect.
Yes.
The person who thinks and feels they don't necessarily need these individuals are the ones you would also assume don't really see the need to actually understand, because what do they need from this person? There's something that we must understand. It's only now in this day and age, in the 21st century, that we are having second and third generations of people who actually are accustomed to wealth. Every generation in this country, you find a new generation of people who are making wealth.
Yep.
So making it means they didn't always have it. They came from a lack of it.
Yep.
Now, my argument is that a lack of it and a pursuit of it imbues you with a certain way of thinking. Now, politicians, the question you ask, how do we see them? They are seen as people who can make certain things possible. Now, if I need more help than somebody else, I will want to believe this more than anybody else. And if the reality that I'm supposed to face interferes with what I think I can anticipate, I won't accommodate it. Sometimes when you're so downtrodden, it is far better to even believe a fairy tale than to believe the truth. Because the harsh reality is what you live with on a daily basis.
Yes, but as you do that, you're also confounded with many other things.
Yes.
Like life and health. There's no time somebody will walk to a road engineer and tell them, unajua, ninaumwa, engineer, ninaumwa na kichwa. You know, this is what an engineer does and this is what a doctor does.
You do.
You do know that.
You do.
So the same way, if you know this is what the president does, this is what the MCA does, you'd be able to distinguish. That's my argument.
But I am in agreement with you. And there are those among them who do. Now, you see, this is where literacy is useful, and time also. And this is the beauty of the information age. There are people who like information and they know. And you will find them at the local level. At the simplest level, there are people who are extremely knowledgeable and they can tell you.
They're very well informed.
Not only that, they're also informed about deliberations in Parliament. Yes. They're very well informed about deliberations in the county assemblies, and they can tell you.
Yes.
Such people exist.
And if you look at how those people make their decisions, it's very different.
Yes.
From the others who say, politics is there.
Wachana hiyo kitu.
Ni siasa, mimi mambo ya siasa mimi. Mwalimu Irongo.
Yes, good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
Moses, how are you?
Aaron, I am fine.
Now he's become Nebuchadnezzar.
No, let me not become Nebuchadnezzar.
No,
with his white beard.
He's still Moses.
It would be horrible if he is found in the forest grazing like
Nebuchadnezzar. Yes. Nebuchadnezzar is a bad example. He's Moses.
Okay, I want to make some contribution on two things.
Yeah.
One, there is this issue of who can do what, who cannot do what.
Yeah.
It's only that the elites in most communities are, my airtime is running out. Let me call back.
Okay. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM.
Morning, Lydia.
Good morning, and Eric, City Ndu and Eric, yes. Thank you for your good work. I wanted to say that schools are getting burnt. And I fail to understand why they just keep announcing that they got burnt. Could it be that the children, when they go to sleep, they light the candle to read, maybe? I don't know. They don't even, there's nobody who can take care of it. Their places where they sleep gets burnt, and they should not give the previous contractors to do it again. Maybe somebody burns it so that he gets a job of rebuilding it. It's so difficult to understand. And please educate the public. We should never be angry. It heats up our brain to boiling point. It can trigger up madness, heart attack, stroke, and even death. So if I want to quarrel with someone, I should not abuse the person. I should say, do you know, how can we solve this? This is the way we can solve problems. The whole world is getting so angry and just coming and shooting a person, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Thank you, SpiceFM.
Thank you, Lydia. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, how good morning, Mr. Eric, Latiff, and Mr. I don't know. We are proposing a change to Methuselah, yeah?
Yeah, Methuselah.
Yeah, Methuselah. So I want now that to be in the public domain, and whoever is going to agree should now adopt that name, yeah? Now, Mr. Eric Latiff.
Yes.
I was very happy because I saw you at TBT. You also like 3 feet into what we call the dynasty class. Because I saw you that at a very small age, you had shoes, yeah? So you are also a dynasty. Okay, now this is my point, yeah? It's first that guy, Mr. West, who was just there.
Yeah.
A certain researcher, just like Mr. Methuselah there, conducted a researcher. He asked some people, or a number of people, what is Africa? What do you think about Africa? And you know what was the average answer was? Many said that Africa looks like a jungle, and where everybody is hungry and he's holding a bowl and looking emaciated, yeah? And related to even it, be a carnivore because of hunger and poverty, And actually, I think that is the correct description that we fit in, because look at the IBC. They are now saying that very few people have registered for the votes, yeah?
Yeah.
This shows the desperation that even if I have got this vote, whether I vote or not, my being destitute, hopeless, won't change, yeah. And therefore, I wait for that guy who will come on top of a limousine, stretch limo, yeah. And I'm praying God that He gives me one before I die, yeah. And they probably tell you, we are going to vote for you. And I know I don't have a vote. And, He gives me the handout just for that day. We are surviving. Each day we are surviving, yeah? And that is, I don't know what I can say. And these are the same pharaohs who are ready to when they are told, go and attack Mr. Eric, go and attack Mr. So-and-so. They are ready because, they have nothing to lose, okay? Apart from the soul, which they can save by running, from danger. Actually, when the launches come, they have nothing to lose. But look at Mr. Eric and Mr. Medusera and other callers who are concerned. They have got more than their souls to lose, and that is why we are concerned. Okay, let me say this also. We are growing because I got some two people, very senior people last week, telling me, I listen to SpiceFM, especially in the morning, the station program, from right in my bedroom. I go to take tea. I is there in the bedroom, and when I get into my car to work, I'm still following, yeah?
Very good.
And he told me that he has told his staff, he has instructed them that they have to listen to SpiceFM, especially the station room, so that they can listen to Mr. Latiff, our sister duo for end, one Mr. Medusera, yeah? Have a nice day, guys.
The guys day to you too, Zachary. Rotich in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Fine, thank you.
Now there's a Methuselah in the house, huh?
The only problem is that Methuselah doesn't know he's in the house. It's others who seem to know he's there.
Okay. Now, my small contribution to the topic is one. Now that is in this campaign period that has started way early before even the recommended period by the IBC.
Yes.
And one thing that I've observed over time as a youth with our campaigns is that the campaigns are usually one-sided. In that, a politician given maybe may it be an MCA, an MP, or maybe presidential candidates or that, they would come to maybe that local township or area, be at top of their vehicles with microphones, and they'll talk and throw jabs at their opponents. And at no point will that aspirant give the mic, hand over the mic to the voter now, to the crowd, or members of the crowd that have members in the crowds who've come to listen to them, for them to talk to them as aspirants.
To say what they want. Yes.
Yeah, to say what you want, or even question the policies, or rather the manifestos. They don't do that. It's just they come and rumble, spew out their lies, and then they move to the next town or the next village, and hoodwink more and more people. I think it's high time that when such people come around your local townships or village or what, ask them for a chance. The people should ask them for a chance to talk to them.
It should be a two-way meeting.
Yes, two-way communication. Like, okay, this is what you want. Okay, we want this to be done to us. Tell us how will you do it? As it'll give us also a chance to air out this. Not only when you're in the office now, is when you come and hold those social hall barazas.
Does it not happen, Rotich?
Rarely does it happen.
Does it happen. When they do those door-to-doors. Ama door-to-door is to deliver sukari.
Hiyo ni kupeleka sukari na ka500 hivi and try to convince. You want something that can be. You see, if I come to you, all right, now I'm the aspirant. Eric, you are one of the voters. It is one of the voters. If I meet you in public, the two of you, as potential voters, there is a way you will, and give you a chance to interrogate my ideologies. There's a way that you will build, you'll have more confidence in even punching holes in what I'm saying and sieving what I'm saying. The moment I come to you now as a CT in your own household, there with a bag of goodies, you see, you will not have much to tell me or what. You just maybe
I have to be hospitable. I have to be a good host.
Yes, and talk to me nicely because there's some goodies I've brought to you. Because there are some people who, when we know the majority of people who live in a lifestyle that they are trying to survive, as the other caller just said.
Yeah.
And when such goodies come by, they will not hesitate to accept it, and they won't question much.
Yeah.
City had said, or was it? Had said that most people fear throwing aspersions, as in they cannot question the leaders who are there. And this fear emanates from that people will see that I'm attacking maybe one of my own member of the community, or I'm selfish in nature, you see. And that is not the position. Somebody wants to know more about this person's policies.
Yeah.
Now, there's the aspect of, somebody just mentioned that there are some youth or people who are ready to disrupt somebody else's function or campaign or anybody. And mostly, it is the youth that are
used to do this.
Involved in that, youth. And they are given some little handouts.
Yeah.
One thing I would urge the youth of this country is to refrain from that, because it is your life that you're putting on the line for somebody else's ambition. Why can that person go and face his opponent on a personal one-on-one, and if they want to throw jabs, they just fight over there, and then they come back and tell us, now I've won, I hit the other guy, rather than you some energetic fellows who can do something better to this country, and not having themselves putting themselves in harm's way.
You know what is interesting? As you're saying this, you've taken my mind back to the pre-multi-party era. Yes. And political rallies were presided over by the district commissioners. And what you're saying is what used to happen.
Yes. And
people, all the candidates would have time to speak on that platform.
All of them are brought together.
Yeah, you're brought together, and you sell your agenda to the people, and people listen. Everyone, you come up and you say, this is what I want to say.
Yes. Not a matter where will people go and meet in the dark, in the dark, and then they get some youth, and then they go disrupting the plan, and then they go disrupt some other candidates' rally. Back in the days, a story to wind it up. Back in the day when my father, who was in his 70s now, they went to some place in somewhere Sondu there. And I'm originally from Kericho. So they went to some campaign somewhere way back when Kanu used to do the Mlolongo thing. And they were ferried from quite a distance to that point to just go and create that number. Influence, I think, the nomination process that was then. But at some point, there are some youths or fellows who disrupted the whole station, and the General Service Unit officers were sent there to contain the situation, and they ended up clobbering everyone.
That's containment.
So in the process, my father and his peers, then they were running after skelter, trying to get away out of the place and to get back home, which is over like around 40. The place is around 48 kilometers away from home. And they ran through some barbed wires. Even to this day, he has a mark on his right leg that he was telling me, with politics, I cannot go where he's rowdy and want. I learned my lesson back then. I was nearly killed.
Thank you, Rotich.
It doesn't serve any purpose. Thank you, guys, and let's educate the masses, honestly, about these issues.
Asante, have a lovely day.
That's great work.
Asante.
Thank you.
As we conclude, Bernard Kiprop says some 2 cents on holding candidates accountable during the campaigns. Well, he then gives ahead. Says, make information about their past performance and the specifics about their promises. Political rallies cannot be the key source of information for most voters or even the media. Should be some background checks being done. When somebody's coming, by the time they're getting to the podium to speak, you already know about them. What exactly are you doing? What's your past performance? What is your character? And then that also contributes. So, CT, Let's conclude with the day's proverb.
Wakwea guni na viratu. Have you climbed on the roof with your sandals on? Have you made a mistake?
Oh. Taita proverb.
Yes, and there'll be yet another Taita proverb tomorrow.
Okay. So, the people from Taita just expect 2 more days of Taita proverbs. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. We thank you very much for tuning in today. It's been Eric and CT. Ndu is away today. Hopefully she'll be back tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Wednesday. Yep. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We thank you very much for all the contributions. Dr. Rowena Nyeri, I like the caller's perspective. I believe she was talking about a teacher's perspective. Thank you for the contributions as well on social media, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Let the conversations continue, because if we don't speak, then we will fight. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life